Probably are. Oh, guys, listen. 200, 400 high stakes. Nope, this is not Dan Negreanu versus Doug Polk heads up showdown. This is me. This is Dr. GTO, Dylan Weiss, and we're here. We're going to be talking the great game of Potlam, Omaha. We're live right now in the headquarters, GTO headquarters here, Las Vegas, Nevada. The beautiful Las Vegas Boulevard Strip. Yeah, that's right. Fremont Street and everything right here. My friend just got jumped the other night on Fremont Street. Don't go down there drunk. Yeah, I know. It's crazy, right?
That is some shit, actually.
I know. As we come back in, guys, join Grimon here, a.k.a. Chicago Joey. Joined today by my man, Dr. GTO, a.k.a. Dylan Weissman. He was on the commentary during the Doug Polk first day in the Grano Heads Up live stream. He just released a brand new course on Upswing Poker. Links in the description below. Shout out to affiliate Poppy.
Hashtag.
And hashtag, yeah, basically what's going on with Dylan is that Dylan just put together a PLO launch pad. It's called $99 course on Upswing Poker. It's basically an introduction to PLO type of course. The great game, Potlam, Omaha. Dylan, I've known him for a long time. And when did I meet you, Dylan? When did I meet you? We were both playing PLO back when? When was it?
I was in Vietnam, and so I was 20 years old, and so that was from 20. How old am I? 29.
Yeah.
So 2012 is when we met each other.
Yeah. So I basically knew you back when I was like in the peak of my Potlam, Omaha, the great game, grinding, playing, thinking about it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I was also interested in drugs at the time.
That's how we met.
That's why I started talking to you about drugs. So I was like, oh, can you tell me about acid and LSD and stuff like that? So that's basically how we got kind of connected there. You were, and then you came to Chicago. I went there to meet you, hang out. We had a good time. You love Potlam, Omaha. You love having a good time, right? You're
Totally.
like a very smart guy, well educated. Always enjoy talking with you, and had you on my show a bunch of times over the years. And then you got involved with the PLO coaching on Upswing Poker. You helped to put out the $999 course with Chris. Shout out to Chris. And we've been talking about how PLO needs like a smaller introductory type course for new players to learn, because it is kind of challenging for people to learn how to understand how to transition from Hold'em to PLO. So you guys put out the launch pad, and in the first week you guys have like a special bonus, right, with the Matrix, which is like a pre-flop hand tool for Upswing that they get $1 if they sign up for Friday. So we're going to talk about that. We're talking about Doug versus Daniel as well. We'll just talk about a bunch of different shit. Listen, man, Dr. GTO, this guy's been around the game for a long time. He's got a lot of wisdom when it comes to mindset, when it comes to everything like that. We also got my man Patrick Antonius, first land of poker up here. A little Potlam and Omaha, the great game kind of brewing in the background here. If we see any notable hands, maybe we'll call those out too. But shout out to Patrick. He's been working hard with first land of poker. Right now it's on ice, but I know they're working hard to kind of build that into something like that. Guys in the chat, what's going on? 500 like edible is in play for me and Dylan today. Dylan said he wants an edible at 500 likes, so we're going to get that going at 500 likes, guys. We also have a meetup tomorrow. We gave away 2 entries to the Bally's Heads Up No Home tournament. Me and Jeff Platt did, and Rob Young did. And then, so Jason flew into town. He's in town now. And then we got one more guy, I believe his name's Derek. We're meeting up with them tomorrow to play some PLO at the or play some Hold'em at Bally's Heads Up No Home tournament. Yeah.
There's a Heads Up Hold'em tournament at Bally's right now?
Calm down, Dylan. I know I shouldn't have told you, the Dr. GTO. So let's go. So, Doctor, tell people a little about your PLO background.
Totally.
Just for people to kind of like, when they say, they might not know much about you, or they haven't seen your Twitch streams that you do on Twitch.
Yeah.
Talking PLO. They didn't see your bankroll challenge that you did at the great game in Potlam, Omaha as well, too. Kind of tell them a little bit about yourself, Dr. GTO. Just a little kind of backstory poker-wise.
Yeah, thank you. So I started playing poker when I was 13. I got super sick, had like the stomach flu for 3 months, and then watched the Chris Moneymaker 2003 thing and started playing poker literally online since I was 13 onwards. I started playing PLO when Blue Fire came out, Galfond's site, and so that was when I was 17. I've been playing PLO for, like 12 years already. I'm 29 now. And I was going pretty hard online until Black Friday, took off after Black Friday, and then went into the real world for a couple of years. I was still playing poker in a more casual sense, got deep into like the analytics streets, product development streets, business intelligence streets, all that shit. And then about 3 years ago, I left one of my companies that I started and didn't have anything to do. And I was like, you know what? I want to give like getting to the highest stakes a real shot. And we were talking about this because I'd gotten pretty high stakes before, but had never actually gotten to the top in terms of playing the largest games. And that was something that I really wanted to do. And so that was also right when Monk Solver and solvers were becoming a little bit more widespread. I became friends with Chris Wayner, who I ended up making the Advanced PLO Mastery course with. he pretty much became my GTO guru. I got super deep in the GTO streets as well as in the, as Chewy would say, the magic streets, which you kind of get from playing PLO for a long time. If you play the game enough, you can create a hybrid game, some might say, of what is optimal and what you think you can create exploitative strategies from that. And then, I launched the course with Chris. That was fucking dope. I started a Twitch stream. That was really challenging, but I love it. I'm sure, as you know, streaming is intense.
It can be.
Yeah, especially if doing a challenge is intense. Let me tell you something. Doing a challenge is intense. That's why something like what Doug and Daniel did is insane. And yeah, I did my bankroll challenge was all very different. It was me turning 5K to 25K for it, like
distracting you, taking a photo for Instagram and those beautiful glasses you got going on there. Look at it,
dude. You looked great in these glasses too. We got to get you a pair.
You kind of look like a killer. The guy looks like a bike rider. You look like a bike rider. You look like a professional bike rider.
Oh my god.
Okay, so you did the bankroll challenge.
Did the bankroll challenge? Finished it.
This is weird because I know I know all your history. So when you say it to me, I feel like I know your history maybe better than you might know your PLO history, just because I've been so entrenched in the high stakes shots, battling at Aria, massive swings, playing online, playing against Bless. You know, so you've been battling hard for a bunch of years now, pretty consistently, man.
I forget about it too, to be completely frank, because it just when you're in it, you forget if that you forget what it looks like from an outsider perspective or a visual perspective. So I appreciate you for reminding me, because there's been some crazy last summer during the series, I played 80-hour weeks. I was playing literally the highest games that they would let me into, pretty much in Vegas.
We'll talk about that. A little bit, right? So you're basically playing. What are you playing at the Aria? So you're playing what, 50, 100, higher than that, 25 fit. What are you kind of playing?
The game that ran every day was quarter 50, and then there would be a private game that would run behind that. I forget the dude's name that would start it, and they would pretty much have it be a public game in that everyone would show up, but then if they didn't have enough seats, they would raffle it off to the regs pretty much, and whoever wanted to sit in a 100-200 game. And then, so I played that game a couple times, and I sat thinking it was 1-2, and it ended up being 2-4-8, which is
200, 400, 800.
Yeah.
So in that situation, right? What do you think? Because you're selling action, playing some of these games at these high stakes.
Yep.
So do you end up obviously you want to keep playing, but it might be more than what kind of deal? You have a good deal where you can just kind of play any stakes that you want if the game's good and makes sense. It makes a lot of sense.
I can't afford 2-4-8, but I don't have a staking deal. I just sell action to a very small group of people, and they let me do whatever I want pretty much. Damn, shout out GTO.
Shout out GTO Trainer on Twitch with the 5 subscription gifted. Thank you very much, brother. I appreciate that. GTO Trainer listeners.
Do we have the horn?
There's a lot of GTO there's a lot of GTO trainers out there these days, and I don't know which GTO trainer you are, but thank you very much for the subscription donations as well. Clap says, great. Can you guys please talk strategy now? So we're gonna definitely get into the strategy here today, Phil.
We'll
Clap. Don't worry about it, man. We'll definitely get there. But right now, I'm trying to explain to people a little bit about who Dr GTO is, where he comes from, how he gets here. Because a lot of times, if you're gonna listen to someone at Potman, I put on a course. I think it's really good to kind of know more backstory about where this player came from, what they battled, why they feel qualified to do this, and you recently did a bankroll challenge on WorldSeriesPoker.com where you went from 5K to 25K as well.
Yep.
And so you've been playing, you've been studying, you've been working hard. I mean, you've been talking to me all the time. Every time I see you talking PLO for the past bunch of years. So I feel like you're pretty qualified really overly qualified, honestly, to make this course. But I wouldn't think you'd spend time I'm gonna do introductory. Normally you like being talking about the most cutting edge, sort of smartest theory, the smartest approach to things, everything like that. So the introductory course, what can people I guess let's talk about people want to transition from. We saw the Nolan Hold'em, we saw the strategy, we heard the solver talk, we heard the state of the games in some ways during the Doug Polk versus Daniel challenge.
Definitely.
So if you're thinking about transitioning to PLO, what's sort of the way to think about that from an element to PLO? Is this a good place to start with the course, or what are the kind of things that you might want to focus on or think about it first?
Yeah, the course is literally designed for that. So for those of you that aren't familiar with product development, when you build a course, you don't just say, oh, I think I'm going to make this course and it's going to have this shit in it. What you do is you create user segments or people that you're building this product for, right? So I built a couple customer archetypes for this course. One of them literally being Hold'em players who want to transition from Hold'em to PLO. So that was a part of the archetype of me designing this course, was literally thinking, okay, if you are starting in Hold'em, what are the fundamentals that you need in order to transition effectively to PLO? Where do people generally make mistakes? Where are their thought processes generally a little skewed in the wrong direction because of what they're used to? And so it's interesting when you talk about being overqualified to make a course like this, because I actually think that it's what's that old Einstein quote where in order to explain something simply, you need to know it very, very well. And I actually found making this course more challenging than the advanced PLO mastery course, because the advanced course I could just like fire up Munker, run some sims, talk about the sims, and assume that people have a basic level of knowledge. Whereas in this course, I couldn't assume anything. It was me literally building the game of PLO from the ground up. And so in that situation, it really forced me to understand if I actually knew what was going on in such a total way that I could actually build it from nothing. And that's why, I mean, that's actually why I really enjoyed the process of making this course. It was a challenge to describe something that I know so well in very basic terms. But it also helped me to reaffirm a lot of the things that I knew as well. And I also had an advantage in that I was playing in the lower stakes games for my bankroll challenge and interacting with my chat, who were introductory PLO players. Or
so
people
you saw what their pain points were, their questions were, that type of thing like that, right?
Poppy using the product, what's it called? The spicy word, the pain point of my customers. Yeah. That's exactly correct.
I've been studying a lot of
business
and investing theory.
You have to hit the pain points of your clients in order for them to know what they need. Yeah, that's exactly correct.
Listen, what I was telling you, Dylan, is that I just think like PLO is pretty easy, and I just don't understand like where the problems are with the great game, right? Like you start, it just to me it doesn't make sense, right? So when I hear like the people have questions, they want to try to get better. To me, it's pretty straightforward how to get better at things these days, right? And so, kind of what you did is your challenge as a creator, right? I've thought about, putting up like PLO courses, content, beginner stuff. I'm like, man, I don't know. I just, do you really want to share that kind of stuff? You decide you want to share it, huh? You decide you want to give away $100, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love teaching. It's my like we've talked about this so much. It's literally my passion. I've been a tutor. I started tutoring when I was in 6th grade. I started teaching math, and building courses for me is less about piling dollars, but it's more about the challenge of finding the best way to communicate information effectively. So first figuring out what do the people want, right? So I made my advanced course, and everyone's like, this is great, but it's a fucking textbook, and it is literally, I think, the best content that exists ever, maybe, for training. It's just so well put together.
Who's this person? I want to play this person. Heads up, man. Come on, Kings Club. Listen, Lauren, I'll give you my agent's number. You go deposit some money. We'll go play 2 tables to 4 tables tonight. Let's play. I want to play. We'll do on Zoom. Let's connect. Let's see. Let's play. I mean, what do people talk about? They come. They want to play. Let's play. Right? I don't know what to say. If you guys want to say something, let's play.
Yeah.
That's what they say. This is the new style. Daniel Negreanu, Doug Polk, they're taking that style.
Yeah, you got to battle.
So you see the pain points, right?
Yeah.
So you saw what their questions were, people's questions were. Your challenge as a teacher is to be able to distill. How do you figure out what you think the main points that people need to learn are for things? Because when you kind of think about how to teach somebody poker and where do you start teaching poker, there's always that thing about who could teach a beginner faster, right? Like where do you sort of start? So how do you decide where to start at with what you're doing with this particular project compared to other projects you worked on, which you've done other things as well too?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So every time I start up a project, I do a pretty intense research phase. And for this project, the research phase was because I was learning about the ecosystem as I was going. And so it's also relatively obvious what the pain points are in something like poker when you play against the fields that you're teaching. And so when I go play PLO 10, PLO 25, PLO 50, PLO 100, it's completely obvious where the mistakes are because you can just literally see it. And so that's when you see what the mistakes are, it becomes a little bit easier to reverse engineer. What's more challenging is not figuring out what you need to teach, but how to teach it, because it's kind of like getting someone to learn something that they don't think they need to learn. And that's one of the largest leaks with poker players generally is that they have an overconfidence in them having an understanding of something, myself included. And so how do you create something where you actually can get the user to watch it all the way through? And that was one of the complications with our advanced course is that it was just I think it's great. I think the advanced course is really great. Yeah.
But it's not. It's more for like people who want to get really serious. You gotta know what you're getting into with this, right? People that recommend it to me ask me should they get the course. you got to be very hands-on. You got to be very focused. You're not like watching a movie and then studying. You're like really got to lock in, and you got to be in the zone. You got to be focused. You got to be paying attention, and you got to be kind of understanding what it is you want to work at, what you want to get better at, whether it's pre-flop, whether it's flop, whether it's 3-bet pots, right? You got to kind of go into there with an objective and say, hey, I need to get better in these spots, and you got to be able to kind of distill the information away from how you presented it too, which can be challenging for some people as well. But that's sort of it's an advanced course. That's what it's going to be.
Totally.
Right. So how simple can you make this? I mean, if you could make it that simple, then everyone would be better at the game. Obviously, it's not really that simple to be able to teach. So I guess when you're kind of making the beginner course, you're deciding what I want to put in there, what I don't want to put in there. I'm just kind of thinking about it from a product design standpoint of how you how you even like to say this should go in there, this shouldn't go in there, because kind of how you broke it down. You've had pre-flop, flop, turn, river kind of in one, and they're not like long or intense or anything like that. They're pretty short and to the point. And then it's kind of on you as the player to go out there and just start practicing, getting in the hands, playing online. I feel like trying to learn this stuff at the casino is got to be quite challenging, right? Because the way I learned Pot Limit Omaha was just by playing online, and you get a lot of hands in. It's 6 max at different ranges. Whereas when you go play live, you know, there's like so many 5 and 6 and 7 way flops out there. And do you feel like there's things you can learn from what you guys put together that can help you navigate those sorts of situations, or how to better think about those situations?
Totally. Let's pull it back to the part about the product design, and then tying that into what people will actually interface with, right? So when I was deciding what to put into this specific course, the thought process was, what is the most basic information that people will use immediately, right? And so I'm not going to be talking about how to construct a turn check raising range in my introductory course, because you need so much knowledge built in order to be able to effectively communicate what it means to have a more advanced strategy such as that. And so you're just looking at the chat still. So for me, what I really tried to focus on in this course was, what is the foundations of a thought process in order to start to even approach the game, right? What should I be thinking about talking to myself in my own head when approaching this game, kind of a thing. And that's where I think a lot of players struggle, is that they don't have a really good vocabulary to even talk to themselves when approaching a game like this. And so that's what I try to give people in this course, is not just the answers, but what is your thought process, and what is a good framework to start from nothing with that you can then build from. And then if you do a really good job with that framework, it builds into the advanced PLO course, because these videos were made in a way where it's not like the advanced course. You can literally just watch it, right? The advanced course, you should have a notebook for this course too, like take notes, try to remember stuff. It's not 100% necessary. The advanced course, you have a notebook, you have your note cards, you're digesting all the videos.
Your
it's
Adderall,
literally, your Adderall.
You got your bottles of water. You got I'm like, when I'm watching the advanced course, I'm locked in. We're 700. And when I'm kidding, right? We're not really that.
We don't need that. But maybe some coffee. And for this course, you need to be paying attention, but it's digestible. It's easy to understand and access videos that if you are just listening to them, it will start to create a thought process that you can then use in real time. So, and I think that and that kind of goes back to the needing to know something really well in order to teach it vocabulary, because in order to teach a very basic thought process on game theory, you need to know game theory really, really well. And that's kind of where I tried to build this course from, in terms of its kernel, like in terms of its it is a game theory course hidden behind a bunch of other shit, where the things that I'm teaching are structured in game theory, but they are not.
You're putting them in ways.
That's
sort of what the challenge I think now from the teaching standpoint in poker is, who can articulate what they're taking away from the modern way of training with programs in the most efficient, clear, articulate way, whether that's verbally, visually, combination of both. The way you speak to the person, the way the person might think about you, and I guess with sort of like the advancement of what you're seeing up there with the training techniques, and it seems like kind of what I suspected for a long time was that the average level of skill of player is going to increase, and then obviously the best players are going to be the best. But as players start to get more, start to have a better understanding of what exactly it means to play good poker, which means to have a solid pre-flop game and then have a solid flop game, And once people start to have a pretty general, a pretty like similar sort of pre-flop strategy, and then even a lot of those guys tend to play it pretty similar on the flop. Where do you kind of see the edges being had in pot limit Omaha when everyone starts playing better pre-flop?
So the good news is you can always go play live poker. And
the good thing is that's never actually going to happen because that's what makes PLO fun to play. But I guess you understand. I'm talking about like the highest level.
No, of course.
The best of the best, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we could talk about like how to beat up on players that don't know what the fuck they're doing all day long, right? That's easy to do.
Yeah.
I'm talking about like because I feel like in Hold'em it's a lot in the overbet situations. It's a lot in just understanding how to leverage those really large sizes and flops, turns, and rivers. And in PLO, when you can only bet the pot, that changes a lot. So yeah, what do you think about that?
So I thought about that a lot when making the advanced course because so for example, take someone like Chris. Dude is just solid everywhere. And that's what you like. And he beats 10, 20, 25, 50, right? He truly beats those games. It's not like some bullshit. He has consistently beat those games forever. And what allows you to get to that level is consistency. And this is he mentioned this to me, so I'm not going to take it as my own. And it actually comes from Sauce, where when you start working with the solver, you can understand it. And then a year later, you'll get a little bit. And it's very much an incremental gains game where it's just the more work you put into it, the more you understand the framework for how it thinks, and the more efficient you become at running sims. Mm-hmm. And so the best players in the world are people that have really good processes. And so like you asked it from a tactical perspective, like in the overbet region, for example.
Right.
And for me, in a game like PLO that's so complicated and has so many different situations, I think the thing that differentiates the best players in the world from everyone else is their process. It's like, how good are they at understanding where the weaknesses in their games are? Mm-hmm. How good are they at identifying those weaknesses and then actually like adjusting them and not messing up other parts of their game? How good are they at staying consistent? How good are they at working, like finding a group of people to run sims with so that they're not just doing it on their own? Like that's what
you can kind of take out sims out of this, right? We say sims, but it's study. This has been the same thing for you. It's been the same way since we were younger, right? Like the way to get better at poker was have a group of people that you talk hands with, you talk spots with, you talk situations with, and now the way that to train is just a little different. You have something to aid that process and to give you different answers. And before you maybe had to speculate on what the answer might be, and maybe you and your friends debated the idea of going of betting big versus betting small on later streets, and you didn't really maybe understand why you thought those things, or you had an argument and mm-hmm. But now you can understand clearer arguments, and you can have things, and you can say, no, this is what the most plus EV play is. This is what's going to get me the most game value out of these situations, and I need to figure out why is that the case, and then how can I apply that general idea to other situations in my game, and then how can I potentially identify weaknesses in my opponent's game, and then I have an understanding how to deal with those situations, and I can start to be able to potentially exploit my opponent if I want to 100%. In this type of situation. And before you had to maybe have guessing games and maybe play more on feel. And I think that's what you've heard some more traditional players talk about is they always enjoyed that whole like, well, we don't really know what's right or wrong. And now we sort of know what's right or wrong in some situations, and the way to go upon it or think about it has changed. And I guess I would wonder is how would you describe the difference in the way that you might think about getting better at poker strategy or theory these days versus 10 years ago, 8 years ago when we were playing and there wasn't this kind of information available?
So when there wasn't information available, the law of large numbers really came into play. Like you had to have a really big sample to figure out whether or not your strategy was working relative to the field. Mm-hmm. And so it was really like, I think so in both answers, consistency is important, because in the old days you needed consistency in terms of testing your strategy and adjusting it and actually getting a sample sufficient to figuring out whether or not it was good. And then nowadays it's consistency in building a strategy more solidly over time. I'd say one of the main differences is your ability to be proven wrong. Because it's a real thing, because like
this guy said he's too tired for this today. Listen, if you guys are tired and you're not ready to get into it, listen, man, we got to take a ride, okay? watching this, we're committing to a journey together, okay? And maybe if we hit the 500 like button, then we get the edibles come in, and then it'll be a different journey we all take together. But yeah, I mean, we're gonna get a little deeper today, right? This will be a little bit deeper of a kind of conversation. Whereas Doug Polk Challenge, right? We kind of kept it loud, we kept it exciting, right? We had the fucking animal was coming down. We had Big Pot Alert, kind of big pot, you know what I'm saying? We had super energy. We had Big Pot Energy. All right, build that billing to make that Big Pot Energy kind of building up there, right? But sometimes we gotta get a little deeper. You gotta wind it back a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
You gotta go in that. You gotta drop in. You gotta see where you come out at.
And I do this more with you than I think anyone else on the planet, right? Like our Doug Polk thing is not how we have conversations. Like there was a couple snippets of our normal conversations, right?
Yeah.
But this is how we talk generally, and so that's why I enjoy doing content with you, is because it's like me and you hanging out. Going back to what you were saying, the main difference is the tools, just straight up. Mm-hmm. Like that is literally the biggest difference. Is that in the past you had to rely on shit like sample size and working with other people, and there were like basic equity tools, and the best players were building their own tools and shit like that. But nowadays the best tools are pretty standard. Like they're out there.
Right, they're not private anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, well, technically
some are. Yeah,
the best tools are private now, right? But they're not going to be private for long. They're coming.
Yeah.
And it's only a matter of time before the best things are available. But people had these sort of tools 8 years ago too, right? They just weren't necessarily. We talk about like a dream machine, or we talk about things like that.
That was so fucking funny,
right? Like these are the kind of tools you see now. You can kind of Doug Polk talked about this in the podcast we did on Monday, where the way to train has changed, and that's sort of what I noticed right away when I came back and started learning Heads Up was that. I could start to have a pretty somewhat decent idea of how Heads Up No Home worked just from using a training program and playing against it.
Yep.
I didn't talk to anybody. I didn't really, you're not even thinking about it. You're just like, I'm just playing. I'm going to see what the results tell me, and then I'm going to adjust my thinking and strategy from there and try to take these things away. So it's like, yeah, I mean, it does seem quite easy today. I don't know, man.
So this is you make
the challenge is I guess being consistent with putting in the effort to actually play and finding good games. To me, that's where that's the hardest part of poker is how do you find the best spots in some ways, right? Like, do you want to battle against the best players? Like you certainly can want to go do that.
Yeah.
And you can want to go, but I think that the risk you run in battling against the best players is actually a little high in that if something is happening in that game, then you're in a real bad spot.
Totally.
So to me, it just doesn't make much sense with the risk of what people have access to out there to really like say, I want to become the best I can be against the other best players in this sort of like centralized poker site. 'Cause I'm thinking about me, like, what do I want to do here, right? Yep. I can make $1 million plus and play in the softest private games I've ever heard of in my life at this point in time, right? Or I can say, okay, I want to be the best Omaha player I can be, and then I can get in the lab, I can study with the solvers, I can talk with you all the time, and then I can say, I'm theoretically I'm this type of great player. I'm articulate about these things. I can explain these things. It makes for a good content creator. It makes for all these kind of things like that. But how do you? Because before it made more sense to kind of want to battle against the best, but. And then in there, of course, you get fun players. You have big advantage over them. You're so much better than these weaker players and average regulars that you've kind of just destroyed these guys for the most part. But nowadays, it just seems like, well, why do that when you can just go directly to the games where it's people are playing for fun, having a good time.
Yeah, there's two answers to that question. I think the first one is, what is your goal? Like what do you want to optimize towards? It's the same. There's a concept in operations research where you're building something called an optimization equation, and the only way that you can do that is by actually defining what you're trying to optimize towards.
Right.
So it's like, is your goal to make the most money? Is your goal the pursuit of being the best in the world at something? Is your goal some hybrid of both of those things where you have to do a dual optimization? That's the first thing. And I actually talk about this in the course, is like, what is your definition of success? Mm-hmm. How do you define success for yourself? How do you define what will make you feel good about the work that you put in? Is it printing dollars? Is it being consistent? Is it being healthy? Like that's part number one to this entire equation. And then the second thing is really trying to get a better understanding of what the ecosystems are and how you want to interact with them. So, and that's kind of why you see a lot of some of the best players transitioning out of the game, is because of exactly what you're talking about. At the highest level, like, so back when we started playing, if you got to the highest stakes, you made the most money.
Right.
Bar none. That's how it worked. It was a linear progression between how good you were at the game, even exponential progression actually, of how good you were at the game relative to how much money you made. Whereas nowadays, it's not the same correlation between how good you are and how much money you'll make. And so it's really on, and like a lot of players just are bowing out because of that, because that's true for someone like me as well. It's like, I don't want to put in time to getting into the best games and like the whole private game scene. That's not my jam. And so I got really good at PLO. I still can always get better. And now I have this skill set. And so instead of going even harder into the sim game, it's like, okay, what will make me feel good with this? It's like, well, I want to teach because I love teaching. I still want to battle in some fun games. And so I still take a couple like really high variance, good spots just because they're fun. I enjoy the battling. That's something that is a part of my soul. But I'm not trying to beat like whatever 200, 400 in ACR right now. That would take me reshifting my priorities away from some of the things that I'm putting energy into that makes me feel good into just like hardcore going into the sim streets. And there's just not a lot of up end there. There's not a lot. There's not a lot of.
What do you do once you get there? Because
exactly.
I guess basically, like, why would you get to that point now? And I guess you could say this before. Why did I want to get to that point? Why did you want to get to that point? Before, I think the reason why you got to that point was one, because you wanted to play against the best, but also because you wanted to make a lot of money at the game.
Yep.
And the way to have success at the game was making a lot of money at the game. So then the question becomes is if nowadays, where before, let's say like 10 years ago, right, you could play softer sites, right? You didn't need to play PokerStars. You didn't play Full Tilt. You could have played Ultimate Bet. You could have played AP. You could have played the Euro sites. You could have played the shady fucking American sites that hopped in all over these places and found good spots. Whereas nowadays, there's been such a massive shift to the club format and to just there's more groups of people. There's a mini PokerStars here. There's a mini Full Tilt there on the applications and on the web browser poker sites now. So when you take a look around and you say, okay, there's all these games, and then for me personally, I'm in a position now where you get offers to play any game, and then they'll put you in the game and give you 80% free roll in the games. So
it's a nice life.
That's what I'm saying, right? Like
that's why you become the content creator, Joey. Is you get the 80% free rolls, right?
I get some real sick offers from people just to play in games with people that have no idea what they're doing. So I'm like, even though I like to learn, I love to dive deep, I really would just love to just battle the fucking solvers in both games for about 2 years of my life. Then I sometimes think like, I'm going to be on the computer. I'm going to be staring at the screen all day. Like it ain't really, you can formulate a strategy where it helps out your general business. If your general business is content, or if your business is coaching or teaching, or if you want to put out a product, or if you want to sound like you know what you're talking about to people more, then maybe people are going to listen to you more, and then you can end up making more from your business that way. So you sort of have to like reshift maybe what it means in some ways to be a good poker player these days. And I think that's something I'm trying to figure out right now. And I think there's probably a lot of successful poker players, yourself included, who are trying to figure that out right now as well too.
Totally. It goes back to what I was saying. It's literally it's a prioritization exercise. Like, what is important to you? And for me, if I'm going to be making content, I waited this long to teach poker because I never felt like I was actually good enough to be a teacher at it. Because like I've been making money at poker my entire life, almost literally. But that doesn't mean that you're good enough to teach something. That means that you're good enough to make money at the game. Whereas now for me, I felt more comfortable doing teaching literally because I went through a super intense period of my life where I just was in the lab really hard. And that allowed me to, and that's not to say I'm the best. I'm not the best in the world by any means, but I am good enough, and I know, and poker has come far enough now that you can actually teach something and know that it's correct. So you're not putting out information that's actually going to hurt someone. And that was one of the biggest issues in poker for a long period of time, is that there was coaching and there was teaching and all this different content that came out that was actually not correct, that was hurting people. And so when it comes down to it, especially for someone like you, it's a balance game between how good do you need to be, right? Like, where is that level? For someone like me who wants to be a representative of Upswing Poker, which is a ridiculous brand, I had like what? Why are you laughing? It's true.
This guy's, I love it. It's just like the good way to put it. Dr. GTO is literally the most intelligent guy you've ever had on the stream. Me listening to his logic is like how the disciples listen to Jesus.
Thank you, JJR. I appreciate you. It's the
funniest thing I've ever read. It's
I
like,
appreciate it.
Because I thought about it for a second. I was like, you know what? This is probably how they did sit around listening to Jesus, right? Like they probably were. There's a fucking guy in. The guys just drops down. We come Dr. GTO for the reason. I'm telling you, right, dude. You like. I feel like you've transcended a little bit these past year. What's happened to you, Poppy?
This past, well,
you got into this, dude. I don't know, man.
I appreciate that. You got really.
You combine this level of like understanding of just like general problem solving into like now it's like master bug.
I appreciate that.
I actually noticed that last time we talked. I was like, Dr. GTO is like, normally you make some hard hitting points, right? But like that time you were putting them like real clear.
Yeah.
And I feel like the best teachers these days are getting better at just articulating complex problems in a very clear, concise, articulate way. And that's what I noticed from like my favorite teachers outside of poker is that they're able to do that quite well.
Totally.
And that seems like the point you're getting at now.
You're
like just distill. You've been thinking about this for so long. You're distilling it down to these like sentences that took us a 30-minute video to make in 2011. You know, now you're like a sentence and you go, oh, okay, so that makes sense. Yeah.
I think thank you. I really appreciate it. I'm try-harding. Like I love this shit. I try so hard to be good at this. And so it's cool when it comes off as flowing easily because there's so much background work that comes into. So there's two parts to the being a good teacher thing. One is just time. Like you have to put in the work in articulating your thought process. And I think the time chamber has been the streaming, right? It's me.
You've been doing a lot of streaming.
A ton of streaming. And so it's literally just me talking about my thought process for 5 hours at a time, 5 days a week for months and months and months. And that's for poker specifically. And that helped both my poker teaching and just my teaching generally because you have such a diverse group of people that you have to communicate information to. And in order to do that effectively, you have to like, and you used to give me shit about this all the time where I would just explain things with crazy vocabulary. Like, that was correct. And then you'd be like, Dylan, shut the fuck up. Like no one understands what you're saying.
Like that.
No.
I was like, what
you would stop me literally 2 minutes into everything we would do. Be like, all right, Dylan, you need to chill out, dog. This is too much for everybody.
Well, like I hear their pain points when they talk, and like I get what you're saying when you get real deep. That's why I love, totally. Right? But then I'm like, you know, I hear what these guys say. They're like, they don't like, they're like me studying Chinese, right? Like I just don't understand what the hell's going on. So it's like I feel like when I'm studying these different things in investing and options trading and fucking understanding these things, that's how I feel.
Totally.
And yes, but I think that's a good thing, right? Is you kind of have that you go level 1, you level 2, level 3, level 4. There's like a video actually on YouTube.
Yeah, exactly.
You've seen that series where it's like explaining someone to a kid. Explaining it to an expert, right? And it's like, I feel like you feel like that's where you've gotten better at in terms of being able to do?
100%. And so teaching PLO to Twitch chat is like level 1. Right.
Bang, bang.
No, that's not a bang bang.
That's my man Moonlight Master up there. Come on, my man Moonlight Master level 1. I mean, listen, that's my guy, right?
I'm not. No,
I give him level 3.
I'm not hating. So it's like people come to Twitch in order to passively watch something that's entertaining and learn something, right? It's not the space for deep work. And it has nothing to do with the intelligence of the people watching. There are crazy smart people. Like I watch.
That's what you're saying.
I watch streams all the time. It's just about the audience and what they're expecting to engage with on that content type. And that's the exact opposite of the Advanced PLO Mastery course. I'm for those videos, I wasn't teaching to a 4, I was teaching to like a 2 to 3. And when I'm talking to Chris or something like that, or talking to you in the deep, I'm like at the highest level, going as hard as I can, not having to modulate my thought or adjust my thought process kind of a thing, just going in whatever my brain talks about.
We love that.
Yeah, no, that's the nuts. And what's cool though now about becoming more comfortable in communicating is that it doesn't even feel like I'm try-harding in talking about easy concepts nowadays, because it becomes so much more natural the more you do it. And so especially with something like PLO, in order to get really good at teaching it at the most basic level, you just have to do it over such a long period of time. And that's like we were talking earlier.
This is my Phil Galfond theory, by the way.
Is it?
This is my Phil Galfond theory. Is the reason why he's so good is because he's been teaching it for so long, which was one of the reasons I was like, oh, I got to start teaching. I got to start making videos where I at least try to articulate my thoughts in how I actually think about them. Because I've never really come from a standpoint where like, oh, let me show you what I know. I'm more just like, I just talk, and like sometimes things might come out, but for the most part, I'm not really putting in much effort to the way I articulate my thoughts or things or anything like that. But thinking about, I was like, how did this guy Phil Galfond do this? Like, how the fuck is this guy still? He took time off
he's still
with
his
family.
Like,
he's got his kid there. Like, I know the guy is a legend, but there's another explanation for what the fuck is going on with this guy, because this is not like this shouldn't be happening this way.
Yeah.
And that was my main takeaway, was just that this guy teaching for over 10 years, every week for 10 years straight, has just got him to a point where he just understands poker. His ideas have been tested so hard. He's thought about how to coach, how to teach, how to articulate these things, how to explain them so well. And it sounds kind of like that's kind of the what you're finding too in your work, is like, oh wow, this is quite interesting how it's kind of allowing me to think about these things in different ways.
Yeah, I've been using this strat for a long time, to be completely honest. in high school when I was taking AP Calculus, I took AP Calculus in second period and then was the TA for AP Calculus in fifth period. And I would help teach the fifth period class what I learned in second period. And then when I was in college and I was doing like upper division probability theory, I would do the homework with a group of people and then teach the homework to people as I was doing it in order to learn it for myself. And that's always because if you can teach something articulately and get someone to understand it, then you know your shit. That's just how it works. And for someone like Phil, it's for sure true because one of the biggest issues specifically with the game like PLO, but in poker in general, is that people get confused when they can't describe a situation to themselves. They get to the turn, they're like, I don't know what to do here. And it's because they don't have a thought process to actually go down and say, okay, what am I supposed to be paying attention to? And in order to teach something, that thought process has to be very defined. It has to be very precise. And so if you can teach something very articulately, you're able to navigate and play or figure problems out on your own because you know what that thought process is. When I find myself in a new situation in PLO, I might not have the right answer, and that happens all the time, but I know what I'm supposed to be thinking about. I know how to navigate that spot in real time, and then I know how to mark it, know what my process is for running the sim afterwards. And that's why it's easier to get better. And it's easier to be consistent when you can explain things very concisely and articulately to yourself. And that definitely comes from teaching. It also just comes from a ton of study, right? When you are somebody who has put in a lot of work to something, you will understand it really, really well for yourself. And this is kind of where there's a split for people that are just amazing individual contributors and then amazing like managers and teachers. And I think both are really phenomenal skill sets, and it's not better to be one or the other. It's just that different people have different strengths. So someone like me, I'm way more towards like the manager teacher paradigm versus someone like Chris he is a good teacher, but that's not, he is a ridiculous individual contributor. Dude can just sit there and blast off and like go super hard executing on something on his own. Whereas I don't have that same chutzpah that he does. I don't have that same ability to just go really hard at one problem for a really long period of time. But I am very, very good at understanding the large system and the larger process, and then being able to kind of put someone like Chris or other individual contributors into their specific niches so that they can be optimal. That makes sense. Then they don't have to worry about the larger picture. They don't want to. They want to worry about their like individual problems. Right. I'm not talking about Chris. I'm talking about this archetype. And then someone like me, I want to worry about the larger structure. That's fascinating to me. And so I can do that and allow the other people to do what they need to do in terms of their own little bubble, keep them protected from whatever they don't want to have to think about. And then it's a really efficient system. And that,
how do you get better at thinking about it from a big picture kind of standpoint, like you said, right? Because you mentioned Chris. I think I struggle with that as well too, where I'm sort of like, I like to get like deep into it versus like sort of like looking at big picture, putting in these, like that's not really how my mind thinks, and I'm trying to get better at that process for taking on more sort of responsibility, process operations.
How long have we been talking about this? like a long time. This is like, so chat. This is one of my favorite conversations to have with Joey. I think this literally started on your first. We were talking about your first podcast a decade, whatever that was, like a decade ago. And you're like, yo, Dylan, I'm gonna start this podcast. So I was like, sick. How are you gonna do it? And you're like, I don't know, man. I just know I want to do it. I'm gonna start this podcast. And it became one of the best podcasts of all time because you stayed in this lane where you just got so deep into it. And then when we started thinking about, okay, how do I monetize this podcast? How do I use this brand that I've built? How do I understand what my audience wants? How do I understand? Like, there are so many, like, what ends up happening is, so the original question is, how do you get good at large system thinking? How do you get good at understanding not just the individual question, but larger questions? And I think that comes from an ability to balance what you're naturally good at versus what you want to optimize towards. And so what that means is, like, first, you have to just know yourself. It's like, are you somebody who's more of that larger level thinker? Are you someone who's more of that individual level thinker? Or are you a hybrid of the two? And so that's question number one, is knowing where you stand, because you can't get better at something unless you know where you are currently. And so that goes, like, that same process gets applied to like tilt control in poker. You don't know if you're tilting if you don't have an awareness of what your tilt symptoms are, kind of a thing. And so that's answer number one, is just to figure out where you lie on the spectrum. And from there, you can start to do small incremental steps moving you towards your goal, while also not pulling yourself away from what you're really good at. And that's why I think a lot of people struggle in life generally because they want to be something they're not, and that makes them suffer. And that's like one definition of suffering is when your reality is different than what you want your reality to be. And so if you want to be the best poker player in the world, but you're not that, and you feel that every day, you're going to suffer. There's going to be there's this emotional turbulence that you feel because your general life is not what you want it to be. And so that I think shows up in this specific question because a lot of people want to be better at.
Good question. It's a good point.
Yeah.
Great answer. Look, man.
Yeah. No, a lot of people they're like, yo, I'm really good at this one thing, but I want to be really good at this other thing. And it's like, well, that's dope. I want you to be better at that other thing, but remember, you're also really good at this thing too.
Yeah,
and so, where is your balance point? And so let's take you as an example. We've talked about this so much.
Let's do it. Let's take me.
No, I love it. It's beautiful.
Let's get in there.
Yeah, it's like the chat's gonna get an intro into your life.
How many edibles we at now? 140. That's just disrespectful. What are you kind of disrespectful? Shout out my man Johnny De Silva and Jennifer Rochelle. Shout out to Jennifer N2 Deep in there. What's up, N2 Deep? What's happening? Okay.
Let's go N2 Deep. Okay.
All right, let's go.
So we have you, who is somebody who is amazing at creating content, like literally one of the best people I know. And then we're trying to now expand that to a larger business or something that's you're maybe not having to do as much individual contributor work.
Okay.
That doesn't mean that you just stop making content right now. It means that you create a plan to slowly transition yourself to where you want to go. Right. And so the same thing is true for me when I was getting better at Munker, because I love poker. I played poker for a long time.
Poker study program.
Yeah, poker study program,
okay.
Munker Solver. Thank you.
No ad.
Yeah, no, definitely not an ad.
No ad. Does Upswing have a program like that?
It does. It's called the PLO Matrix.
PLO Matrix.
Yeah,
okay.
But we won't shill yet. So
this is kind of the whole
thing's a shill.
The whole thing's kind of a shill in some ways. When you think
Yeah, but
about
it's
it,
good.
right?
But it's good content.
I know it's great content.
Yeah.
That's what I said. I was like, oh, we should just talk about this. I mean, just like you happen to have I talk to the guy all the time. You happen to have the launch pad coming out. I'm gonna have you on for your.
Exactly.
You worked at the course for 5 months. Of course, I gotta have you on. You know what I'm saying? And. Get those sweet, get some affiliate poppy. I mean, I like cringe at the thought of being the affiliate stuff, but it's like
no, but it's not. But
things work, I guess.
But that ties back into what we were just talking about, right? It's like how do you create something that feels healthy for you as you're transitioning?
Yeah.
And a lot of people they'll kind of they're like, oh, fuck being an affiliate, or like, I don't want to have to be an affiliate. Well, it's like, well, that creates passive income for you to have to maybe put a little less time into making content because you're going to be inefficient at that thing that you want to get better at for a long time. That you don't like when I was trying to get really good at running sims at the beginning, there's a learning curve. I had to get better at it. It wasn't like I just showed up one day and knew how to do it. I had to take time to learn the software, get better at it slowly over time. And as that was happening, I was less good. I was spending less time on the things that I was already really good at. And so when you're in this transitionary period, you have to have an awareness that you're just not going to be as good as you're used to being because you're entering a sphere of understanding that you just don't have as much experience in. And so there's the emotional side of that, which is just being okay with being bad. And we are terrible at that as humans. Poker players, especially ones who are good poker players, are atrocious at being bad at things. It is insane. Of all the different parts of the world or the different subsections of humans, poker players are atrocious at being bad. That's just how it is.
Just taking that anyway. I'm getting feeling disrespectful by my chat today. It's fine. We're gonna do that. We're doing the 500. Go ahead, buddy. Go ahead.
I'll take a
dive down.
Yeah, I'll take this amount.
Save that
later.
It's a great statement, Dylan. Poker players are bad at being bad.
Yeah, and as humans,
we're good poker players. Sorry.
Good. So the best poker players are good at being bad.
Okay.
And I think that's where the inflection point becomes. Like, for example, when Doug was doing his challenge, he was showing up on Twitter and being like, yo, I just made a ridiculous mistake in this hand. And doing it on the biggest platform possible. And that's one of the things that I've seen for those that are truly world class at whatever they do, is that they don't have an ego about being wrong. They don't have an ego about being shown that they were incorrect about something. And this is something that I see so much when it comes to, like, I don't know, backseat poker players watching Twitch streamers or watching someone like Doug and Daniel, right? They see Doug or Daniel make a mistake and they say, how are they the best player in the world in making mistakes? They're the best player in the world because they make it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter if it's poker, if it's business, if it's teaching. I don't care what it is. You are going to make mistakes. We are humans. We are imperfect. And so it's not about not making mistakes. It's about how you handle mistakes.
Right.
What is your process for being humble? What is your process for making mistakes and not losing self-worth, right? Like that's a huge thing. Is when you fuck up on something, forgiving yourself that you fucked up on it. That's a massive, massive thing that a lot of people struggle with, myself included.
You think that's about being mindful when you get that, when that feeling hits you and you sort of have that thought of, wow, you know, like this wasn't up to the standards with what I expect myself to be.
Totally.
And it's about being mindful in that moment, taking a deep breath and saying, you know what, that's normal, that's going to happen. I mean, that's sort of what I go through now with all the things I try to do. I'm trying to do different production ideas, try to do different marketing ideas, try to do different business model ideas, right? I'm like, okay, maybe go more private. You know, I'm basically like working at every part of the business in different ways. And then I'm getting real deep in the weeds in some things with writing and with, you know, writing for advertisements, writing for just general me, you know what I mean? So it's like, there's a lot of things that you're not going to be good at in that scenario. And if you try to say, okay, I expect myself to be as great as I am at doing this, then you're going to have a lot of those moments where you're like, fuck, man, I just suck. You know, I do that all the time. I'm like, God, I fucking suck at this shit. Like there's so many things I'm trying to do now. And that's a function of trying to do so many different things and trying to learn a lot, trying to, I guess, like get better at a lot of different things slowly in some ways. And some days it's focused on this, some days it's focused on something else. And oftentimes there might not be correlation between the two things that you're doing, to the point where if you're investing, if you're studying investing and you're in the options trading and you're saying, okay, what I learn about calls and puts and how to find the good plays you want to bet on, how does that matter for graphic design, for a photo on Instagram, right? Or something like that. So that's something I've really been struggling with lately, is just to sort of like think about that in my mind. And when I'm very mindful, I can process it and I can get through it. But when my mind, and I'm just working hard, when I don't get outside, or when I'm not like doing those things that help clear my mind, meditation, and they sound kind of, you know, cliche and stuff like that, right? Get outside. I posted about the park yesterday. That helped me out a lot. So I guess what you're saying is you just sort of have to realize, right, that's the process and that's what's going to happen, and you're going to struggle with it for a period of time, and you're still going to, you know, maybe even stop being as good as you were at that one thing that you were great at, or those two things you were great at, because you're trying to now allocate that energy elsewhere. And that's sort of what goes back to your initial point of saying that you want to have an idea of where you're going and what you want to get better at and what you want to work at. And if you can get that down, then you can build that path to what you should be focusing on, maybe a little more efficiently. But I guess for these things, there really is no solver, and there's no, this is the way to do it, that's the way to do it. There's many ways to do it. And it's sort of about, I guess, like deciding on what that framework of a day, those processes and those habits might be, and then filling in the rest with what that work might be, or that's sort of like what you want to spend more time on. But in general, having a healthy process each day where no matter what happens outside of that, you at least were healthy to your mind, to your body, to your friendships, and you keep yourself in a good position to be able to perform at a high level with whatever your actual work or competitive aspect might be, kind of thing.
That's all those things are A+. I completely agree with everything you just said. The things that I want to add to that are probably the two things that I'm working the most on right now, which is one, patience. And that goes back to the being bad thing. It is, I think patience is truly a superpower, because it shows up in your short-term things. So like, let's say, for example, you're playing a live poker session and you're card dead for 6 hours. Patience is key in that short-term scenario, right? Because your job is not to get impatient. Your job is to sit there, play your game, have things not go off the rails because you're just sitting there bored or whatever. You have to sit there and be patient in making sure you keep on your goals and your process. And that is extended into the long term as well. When you, let's say, take on a career pivot, for example, because you have to be patient with the process because it takes time to get good at something. You have to be patient with yourself in terms of making a ton of mistakes. Yeah. And so that's what's really, really challenging, is when it is easier to forgive yourself and to find things like self-care and self-love if you're patient with yourself, because you realize that you don't need to be perfect right away. And that's to me one of my biggest lessons that I've gotten probably out of the past 6 months, literally, is the connection between patience and then self-love and forgiveness. Because if you, let's say that you're impatient with yourself and you make a mistake, you're going to be super tilted because you're not where you want to be yet. You wanted to be at place X by Y time, and now you made a mistake on that day, and it tilts you to, it happens to me when I make a mistake. I did something earlier this week that tilted the shit out of me and made my body go into like an anxious space. And it's because I have been working on a process for a long time and I'm still messing up on that process. And if I have more patience with myself, that I'm not perfect, that it will take time to get to where I want to go, it will become easier for me to not hate on myself when I make mistakes. Yeah. Because I'm giving, like, because I recognize that as long as I'm still trying, as long as I like maybe the results aren't there yet, but I know that I'm trying hard, right? It's like it's the meme that we're turning what Doug said, right? You had to bet on yourself or whatever. But you
never be afraid to bet big on yourself, Doug Polk. Amen.
I love that shit.
Fucking love it.
Never be afraid to bet big on yourself.
Anytime you're anyone successful, by the way, just say that, right? I'm serious right now, right? If you're a creator or influencer, right, and you've had literally any success, go right now and tweet exactly what Doug tweeted out, and everyone is just gonna fucking bet on you, and then some are gonna meme you like, oh, what I bet on myself and I went broke, right? And you're like, okay, whatever, fuck up. And then some people are gonna make, well, he bet on himself and he bet, it's gonna be the same things, but that is like influencer fodder right there. I mean, listen, I could tell you guys the standard top 10 influencer fodders. We'll save that for another time, right? But if you're a brand, if you like know someone who's successful, go tell them right now. Be like, yo, put that shit out there for people to see. I'm even my drive. That's a low frequency play all the time. Yeah. That's a low. You got to have that in your low. You got to have that in the low frequency, right? Like, what a perfect time bet on yourself.
It's also so much easier to say when you've been successful.
That's
right?
what I'm saying.
Yeah,
right?
It's so easy. It's so easy to say it when you've been successful.
Right. If someone else tells you, like, oh, bet on yourself, you're like, "Ay, dumbass, you know what the fuck you're talking about, right?" But if Doug Polk tells you to bet on yourself, you're like, "Oh, Doug Polk said I got to bet on myself, right?"
Homie just made $1.2 million. Like, of course I'm going to bet on myself.
He beat a guy who had no experience and ends up knowing home format for $1 million. Like, he tells me to bet on myself. I'm going to bet on myself. You know what I do. I find it fucking hilarious. It's so
I get
funny.
it. Yeah.
Internet marketing is so funny,
dude.
It's so ridiculous. Like what like moves the needle, or what gets engagement, or what the days of authenticness in some ways has for certain people, I feel like it's just hard to be authentic in some ways once you get into the whole engagement game, but that's another topic for another time. So let's kind of stay on track what we were talking about before.
Yeah.
About related to patience.
Yeah. It's interesting when I look at the parts of my life that I felt the most healthy and the most successful. Those times in my life, the main components of my daily interaction with myself that show up, I think, are patience and gratitude. Like, when I've felt the most healthy, I've been patient and I've been grateful in my days. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of how I can even, like, I would go so far as to say that I would be able to evaluate myself being successful at any point in my life if in that point in my life I'm able to be patient and I'm able to find gratitude in my days. And that's for a couple of reasons. The first reason being that I just feel good. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the, especially as I get older, I mean, I'm only 29 or whatever, but like, I have a fuck ton of responsibilities for a 29-year-old, right? And so, like, as you gain more responsibility, and as you, oh, that's really funny, yeah. Fat.
This is a phenomenal tweet. Yeah. When your parents tell you never give up, you're going, fuck you, right? When Doug Polk tells you never give up, you're like, I believe in myself now. Yeah.
I talked about this on the last pod, right? Where it's like, my parents, they always told me, I don't care how good you do, I just care that you tried your hardest. Mm-hmm. And that's that good shit. And and getting back to what I was just saying, it's very, very similar in the times that I feel patient and grateful, I'm successful because my days feel good. And it's just hard to have your days feel good as an adult sometimes, right? We live in a world that has a fuck ton of media that's bombarding you with shit that doesn't feel good. With especially for someone, especially when you put yourself out there in the public sphere, you get this shit, like you maybe don't allow it to happen, but like people are just taking shots at you all day, every day, and nonstop. And that's something that I'm experiencing really for the first time right now, putting the course out for myself. Like in the last one, we kind of had Chris there, and Chris is the machine. You tried to find something wrong with that course, he was going to give you $100. Like, and whereas this thing, it's like, it's my brand now and it's my personal entity. And so I'm the one getting the majority of the flack for things. Mm-hmm. And thankfully I'm one, comfortable in myself that I made a really good product, but also comfortable in knowing that people taking shots at me isn't mean that I did something wrong. It's just like, that's what humans do and that's how it works. But
what do they say? What are the critiques for the course that they might have?
I haven't actually seen any. People just like say you suck at poker, you're bad at things. Like it's just like general stuff for anybody putting up. People say Doug Polk sucks at poker, right? And Doug is ridiculous. It's just standard things that humans on the internet love saying. Like there was a comment that somebody made somewhere saying that like I didn't understand 4-bet folding ranges in PLO, and I was like, yo, bro, look this up. The sim, like we put this in here because the sim said this, right? So a lot of the times it's not even logical. It's not even like a logical critique of you. It's just somebody spewing things because they want to say it. And and in those situations, what I've found is healthiest is to either just not interact with it, or to like there's a thing that I learned in an ayahuasca ceremony where, yeah, this is some shit. So like if you're in an ayahuasca ceremony, a lot of the times people are like throwing up or they're having really intense emotional situations because you're in an intense experience, and there are two ways you can interact with that. You can get mad at somebody because they're impacting your experience, or you can kind of send love to them and be like, okay, I understand that you're having a really hard time. I'm just going to like do my best to send love to that and then not allow it to affect me. And that's one way that I've found to interact with like kind of the toxic comments on Twitch or on YouTube or on Twitter or whatever, is instead of seeing it as a bash of myself, I'm like, okay, there's something going on in that human's life where they don't feel good and they feel like they need to put out this toxic comment. So I'm just going to do my best to like not respond, send love to that person, and then move on with my day, kind of a thing.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And it's easier to do that if you're being patient, if you have like self-love and all those things. If I'm in a place where I'm
shit together.
Yeah, if I'm in a place where I'm like anxious and depressed and somebody makes a comment on YouTube, I'm like, fuck, am I bad at poker? It's like, no, I'm not. But like my body and my brain aren't aligned with that fact. I'm not thinking logically. And so like that was a big tangent from the success thing. And so bringing it back to that, the two parts of it are feeling good in your days, and then also when I am patient and grateful, generally I'm fucking crushing it. Like and it's for that exact reason. It's like if I see something that like a bad YouTube comment, it doesn't derail me for 20 minutes. I see it, I pass on, I'm efficient with my time.
Right.
I know that it's easy for me to be an executor in these situations because I'm not distracted by my body freaking out with anxiety, or by my body freaking out with my back being like physically not good or whatever. And so when you have that patience and that gratitude, you're just in a crusher mindset, because there's not this extra thought processy that's taking up your bandwidth. You're just fully unlocked to be like an absolute savage kind of thing.
And okay, so I guess let me give a couple shots to the chat first of all. After that great answer right there, Moonlight Masters loving it on Twitch. Shout out to Moonlight Master. James Young threw the turn on the PLO Launchpad. Pretty impressive so far. Thanks, Dylan. That's right. We're talking about the PLO Launchpad a little bit here today. Just launched this week on Upswing. Links in the description below. Host, we got John Old Silverman. What's happening, John Old? N2 Deep LA, my guy. What's up? I saw Big J out there earlier. Jordan Vargas, what's going on? Elvis, what's happening? Got a donation, €10 from my man JJR. Ask the doctor what's GTO for his OnlyFans clients. By the way, this podcast is better than OnlyFans. Well, thank you very much, big dog. And I will ask him about the OnlyFans GTO. You guys remember that. João Cabrera, what's happening, buddy? Boz Face, do you still play regularly? I've been playing a lot. Since I came back doing commentary, I've been playing a lot. But also right now, I'm also real focused on learning more about business and how to run your own business, how to handle your own business, how to invest in different businesses. And I've been deep in studying different parts of the investing world. So
you want to talk about that? You want to talk about how to run a business?
We can talk about that in a little bit. Yeah. Let's get some more PLO stuff. So we basically called the video "How to Learn PLO." We didn't really talk much how to learn PLO because what I realized was that like, one, I think it's easy, and two, like the course sort of has it all. So let's pull some things out of the course, right?
Totally.
And you're transitioning to PLO. Where do you start, right? You start learning pre-flop selection. Yeah. And then the question is, how do you learn pre-flop selection? And nowadays, there's no other way to describe it. The way you learn pre-flop selection is by you get one of the programs out there that sort of help you to better understand those things. And that's what kind of the PLO Matrix has with Upswing Poker. And but I guess outside of if we say this program doesn't exist and we just want to, we saw the program, we kind of know what it is. Yep. And you sort of explain these things as the number one thing is nuttiness. Yep. Right. So you want to be playing hands that can make the nuts. And I think a lot of players get in trouble with hands like a King 9 10 7 and even like a 3 4 5 6 and these sort of like speculative hands that make like a kind of a straight. And when you get a lot of money in with the hands, even when you have a straight, when you have the nuts, oftentimes your opponent's going to have redraws with that, or they're going to have very, very strong hands, and they're very rarely punting it off in some of these games. And and I guess a question I have is, and jumping past that idea, is that at what point, if ever, is it okay to start playing those hands when you're in games where there's a lot of people playing very marginal hands pre-flop? Do you ever decide, okay, I'm going to start mixing up with these guys with these hands that might get me into trouble, knowing that I feel confident to play these hands post flop, and I'm going to be very wary of blowing these pots up unnecessarily sometimes when I do have a hand that might appear a little bit stronger than it is and we are a little deeper stack. And and how do you think about the idea of expanding pre-flop ranges depending on the games that you're in and when they start to play a little bit looser?
That's a really good question. The first answer to that question is
that's the most strategic
yeah, that's
question
I mean that's all you asked it. I'm gonna get. I'll go quick on it.
Joey swing poker coming soon.
Joey swing poker. I did it for you, dog. You didn't want to make this course. I made it, so you didn't have to.
Shout out to Poker Ninja's 100-bit donation on Twitch. That's true.
Yeah, you don't want to make this. You want me to make it. That's some bullshit. Like, okay.
So you get the big bucks, kid.
Yeah, no, I feel you. So, the answer to that question is that you don't do it at first, right? You don't open up your range and like play marginal hands when you're first starting off, because you're going to have a lot of issues navigating these like post flop scenarios. And so the first thing that you need to do.
What?
Are you looking at this hand?
It was just a random hand. Okay. I think they capped it. Yeah.
Okay.
PA. Yeah.
This is a 10K cap. So yeah, that's the first thing, is that you don't fuck around too much. Like one of the biggest misconceptions that people have about poker in 2021 is that you can be exploitable. You can have this like exploitative loose play without understanding the fundamentals. And I think that that's what's wrong. And that's one of the things that I really tried to push in this course, was that if you have the basics down, like the fundamental basics, then you can start to expand from them. Exploitative play is not about just like randomly adjusting to your opponents. It's about knowing what the correct answer is and then deviating from there. And so so there are spots, like, I'll give you a really good example. If I'm playing a dude like Blesnik heads up or whatever, I'm not going to give away the specifics of what we did or whatever, but pretty much there are spots where that dude, he's so aggressive that I'm not going to be 4-betting what's optimal. I'm going to be 4-betting what's optimal relative to how aggressive he is being. So I know what the optimal answer is, and then I can deviate from that based off of what I know the right answer to be. And that's really the gist of that kind of thing, where it's like, when can I start being a little bit looser? It's like, well, you don't want to be loose without a thought process behind it. And that goes back to what we were talking about before, when people kind of get confused on these later street spots. It's if you don't have a way to talk to yourself about why you're doing what you're doing, you're going to have a really bad time. And so and that's why having a maybe more tight pre-flop strategy is really good for beginners in these games, is because you don't have to put yourself in a ton of uncomfortable situations. Generally speaking, you're going to have a stronger range than your opponent. Therefore, it's a little bit easier to navigate different post-flop situations.
Right.
And then as you get more comfortable and you know what that kind of middle equilibrium ground is, or that the right place to be is, then you can start to mess around a little bit, because you're going to have a thought process on how to navigate post-flop. Let's say that somebody's just playing optimally and then I'm now 3-betting too much. It's a really bad place to be. But let's say that I did that. Maybe I'm in a private game. I want to be mixing it up a little bit, giving some action. And I 3-bet like the king 10 9 7 kind of a thing.
Double suited?
Single suited, because I'm savage.
Single suited. Okay. You're savage. Oh, wow. Savage. Okay.
Yeah.
I know a lot of savages down at the local 2-5-10 Aria game that are three. No, they're probably not 3-bet that hand, actually.
No, they're never ever doing that.
King 10 9 7 1 suit 3-bet that hand.
That's
okay.
That's like the 100-200 fish that are doing that.
Okay. You 3-bet that hand. Okay.
Well, and the big games. Okay. So I know that was wrong, and I flop let's say the flop. So we have king 10 9 7. So let's say the flop is Queen Jack, or no, that's the wrong one. King 10 9 7. Let's do King 10 6 8.
Okay.
And the board is 9 7 deuce, so I flop a wrap.
Right.
And then the turn is like the flop goes check. The turn is a 6. So I have the middle straight now, or the king. Turns an 8. Excuse me. So I have the middle straight with 10 6. In that situation, I'm wider than I'm supposed to be. Right, I've deviated from optimal, and so instead of playing what my optimal range is supposed to do, I'm now going to play it in such a way where I'm wider than I'm supposed to be. Therefore, am I supposed to have more straights or less straights? And then now, how do I adjust in that specific situation?
Okay.
And so that's what players really need to be thinking about if they start to get more hyphy. Is like, what are you supposed to be doing in these situations? And then, if you're not actually doing that, if your opponent's not actually doing that, where does that kind of balance out, and how do you adjust your strategy accordingly? But it all goes back to just playing solidly from the beginning and then adjusting from there as you move forward.
I guess in that situation, well, how would you adjust then? How would you start thinking about it differently? Because let's say in that situation, right, you get led into, and then you start thinking about, okay, how do I start thinking about that turn situation when you do turn that second nut straight, you get led into. I mean,
yeah,
I think most people are going to probably just end up calling there and
you're
not really raising right unless you have the nuts. And
yep, that's correct. When that doesn't happen is when like you can start using things like side cards. Let's say that we had 2 10s in our hand, like king 10 10 6.
Right, that's what I'm like, yeah, exactly.
And so now you can start using a little bit more game theory and being okay, now I can maybe find a raise here because I don't block any of the pairs on the board. The cards in my hand are not the cards on the board. Therefore, my opponent's more likely to have a set or 2 pair, and I have cards in my hand that make it less likely that they're going to have a straight. And that's one of the basic fundamentals of a game like PLO is how much equity do I have in my hand and how much equity do I remove from my opponent's hand given the 4 cards that I have. And so maybe in that situation you get to find raises with the non-nut combinations if your opponent's maybe a little too spewy and they're like bet calling combinations they're not supposed to. So you can get into the more non-clean outcomes the more information that you have. Right? Like that's a good way of describing it.
I love it, man. I love it. Dropping knowledge in here, kid. Dropping knowledge. I mean, that's our ticket. We're watching some first land of Poker Patch. Like this guy actually, I think he makes out with one of their guys in the game at some point in time. This is one of the most out of line pot
that's awesome.
in the history of the game. I think I talked to this guy actually on Facebook. He messaged me, I wanted to come on the podcast. His online name is like XD or something like that. I think this is XD. And basically, the guy's one of the top online pot players. He was at this time in the world. You got Sigmund in the mix here. Shout out to Hillary. Hillary's working hard.
Dude, look at his face.
Look at him.
He has such a
He's just Jungle Man. Look at Jungle Man. That did nothing. He got his shirt on. Luckily, in that situation, it looks like Ankush right there. Pistons. This game was. What is? Let's see some of these hands. Let's see what we got here.
Yanni's a savage.
So Brahu 3-bets. What is he 3-bet? Deuce 3-4-5. Dylan, we like that 3-bet pre-flop. Deuce 3-4-5. Ay. What is that?
We don't.
No, we don't like that hand. Ace King 9-7 out of position. You call that to a 3-bet?
Sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah. Okay. Sometimes, probably not. All right. Yeah. So we're gonna. I think these guys are maybe overcalling to someplace pre-flop. So right away, Dylan folds the deuce. The deuce 3-4-5. He flops the Mexican straight wrap there, and he's got that bottom. He's got bottom Mexico here. It looks like with the 2-3-4-5. Another guy's got top 2.
Yeah. I check this every time. The reason being that when I 3-bet pre-flop and I don't have an ace in my hand, and then my opponent calls, it's so much more likely that they have an ace in their hand. And so you want to only be really c-betting a board like this if you can remove your opponent's continuing range. And this is why he gets shipped on immediately. The dude, this is like the perfect example of what I'm talking about. If you 3-bet the deuce 3-4-5 and you don't have an ace in your hand and it's an ace high board, it's just so much more likely that your opponent's going to have that ace in their hand. And so in this situation, you kind of want to just take the equity of your deuce 3-4-5 and check it back and be able to realize the equity because you have so little fold equity. And a lot of the times you're also just getting it and dominated against a 7, 8, 9, 10 type hand as well.
Makes sense. And so I guess in that situation, if you do, and that's sort of why you want to be wary of your pre-flop hand selection, right? Is that when you do 3-bet the deuce 3-4-5 and you get called, you're going to feel like you might need to ship in that situation. You have getting a lot of money in on ace 6, 7. And just ramps your variance up. You know what I'm saying? Like, sure, sometimes you can win these spots, and sometimes you're going to run well in them, but oftentimes they're not going to be consistently winning plays most times, right?
Yep.
So that's why you don't kind of get in situations like that. I mean, that just goes to show you it all really starts pre-flop.
100%.
And when you trace your mistakes, you might have had a good hand, feel like you ran bad, and sometimes you win those hands, of course, too, with the dog shit hand pre-flop that you decide to play, and all of a sudden you end up in a big spot. You make 2 pair. The guy's got top pair, top kicker. He's got ace queen. You got queen 5 on the, you 3-bet a pre. And this happens, right? It's going to happen to you sometimes. You're going to feel like a god, but oftentimes it's just going to get you into trouble. And unless you like navigating those trouble streets post flop, probably shouldn't.
And even in that spot, it's like, you have top 2 pair and they have 3 overcards to your top pair. So it's just like a 55-45 anyways, right? And that's your best case scenario kind of a thing. So how much PLO are you playing right now, Dylan? Are you playing to get in the streets? I mean, these guys are taking shots. Maybe you want to go play this game. Like, what do you? I don't think I'm going to be grinding it like the 5-5 at the Aria anytime soon. I miss playing big live though. Like I would play this game for sure. Big live poker game.
You play in a game where everyone's drunk and getting out of line.
See, the biggest issue is that I don't drink. Like I would do other drugs with these dudes. I just don't drink alcohol. And so it's hard for me. Like that's really hard about the big private games is when everyone wants you to drink. And like, I just hate drinking. And so it's not even about wanting an edge in the game. It's that I just my body hates alcohol. So you kind of feel like a nit in those spots. But then you have to kind of, I don't know, you kind of have to stand up for yourself or whatever. But
Yeah, normally when you're in a good live game, right, there are people taking a lot of drinks and people are doing shots, like they're having fun. I actually think that's kind of the future of how I see poker in some ways, is like they're more of an emphasis on people having a good time and playing more hands and not necessarily doing the whole like, like you come in there and you quiet and you play the right ranges pre-flop. Like I sort of see it in a way where the games are just like, hey, we're going to play wider than normal here in these kind of situations.
Yeah. And I'll do that shit without getting drunk. Like I'm fine playing wider ranges and stuff in big games and not being a nit. Because I'm really like, so for example, like let's say I wouldn't 3-bet the deuce 3 4 5 tri suit, for example, but maybe I show up with the deuce 3 4 5 double suited, and then I'm the one that's actually checking back the a6 7 flop. So I will still give action in those big games because you kind of have to in those situations, and the better that you get, the more comfortable you can be with getting out of line.
Yeah, Pierre Palm said, I watched a lot of pods. This one's quickly running up there to the ranks of the GOATs, man. Listen, man, we've done a lot of podcasts over time, and I feel like kind of what are some of the questions you think are most interesting in poker right now? Because, from my perspective on what I think, like my sorts of the things I'm interested in are like, how are people navigating the private game world, right? Online. How are they finding the best games? How are they selling the action? How are they ensuring they're playing in fair games? So my questions right now are a lot different than most people's questions are going to be, which maybe more focused on, right? You might get more intricate and say, okay, like our pre-flop hand selection, we go back to that. We start with the nuttiness and we suggest you play hands that can make the nuts and where that's nut flush draws and
you can watch my course for that though. We don't need to talk about
exactly right. So then you kind of go from there and you say, okay, we got nuttiness. Then you got to worry about, you might worry about suitedness, connectedness, and kind of go down from there with the high pairs as you kind of describe. And where do you feel like a lot of people are making the most mistakes? I think that weaker players obviously pre-flop, but once you get past that, and now let's say we take a step up and we say we're dealing with someone who may be an average regular, where do you feel like these people are making a lot of the bigger mistakes at right now?
Do you want it in terms of their poker game or in terms of their like in their their tactical play or their?
I'd say we stick with tactic, right? We say in the game.
They're not finding enough aggression, and when you don't find enough aggression, that means that you don't restrain your opponent's aggression. And so I'll give this shows up in my course, and it's actually really funny how obvious it is when you're in the course. So let's say you're playing PLO 50 or PLO 100, and the regs there are like, meh. Like is
Thallo in the game? I saw him in the chat. Is he in the game? Where we put him at? Where we put my guy at that? My guy
Thallo. I don't know what Thallo plays online. I don't think he plays online. He plays the big live stuff, but he's not as much of an online player.
Okay. So I'm saying in the live game. I
thought okay, right? Yeah. So let's say we're playing the 5-5-10 of the Aria, and there's some of the better regs there.
Okay. Is Thallo one of those better regs? That's what I'm trying to ask you.
Oh yeah. Thallo beats the 5-5-10 game for sure. Okay. The Aria. Yeah, he's gonna beat that game.
Okay.
You can't talk Thallo up at all. He's already got that big head. You gotta keep it there.
It's okay.
Love you, Thallo. Yeah. Anyway, so that's one of the biggest spots.
He's got attitude. I like it. I like it.
Thallo, it's true.
I saw that. You know what's happening. Let me tell you. I was going on one of my random edible adventures, dude. Let me tell you what happened. Right. I end up getting a massage by this. Okay, let me tell you what happened. All right, so I end up, I take like 2 edibles, right?
This is a great tangent from talking about.
And I'm sitting there and I go, man, I really need a massage right now.
Yeah.
So I pull up my phone and I type in what massage place are open. It's like 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. Okay.
Yeah.
So I find a random place and I go over there and Uber over there, and I'm sitting on the street and like it's a pitch dark. It's like dark outside. I'm in a weird area of Vegas. Like there's one car in the parking lot, and then a van pulls up with an Asian guy. He gets out. And he's like, what are you doing? I go, oh, the door's locked. I'm trying to get a massage. And he goes, all right, come on. I'm like, oh, okay, whatever, fine. So I go in there. There's one lady in there, right? She's working hard. She's grinding. And it's like 10 o'clock, and I'm looking around like, where the fuck am I at right now? So she's like, oh, do you want a massage in the back room? I go, yeah, definitely. She walks me through about 15 rooms. So go down one hallway, right? I'm looking around. I'm like, I think I'm going to die in this room. I make a right. I go in another back room. She's like, all right, take off your clothes, and I'll be back in here. And I'm like, oh my God, okay. So I'm like, all right, I just take off the clothes. I lay down. I'm laying there for about 15 minutes. And I go, where the fuck is going on here, man? They're going to kill me in this place. But she comes in.
How did we get here? Like, how did you show up?
I'll tell you. Okay. She gives me the massage, right? A beautiful massage. I'm in heaven. I don't have my phone there. I'm mindful. Beautiful. I'm just like, I've just never been feeling so good. I walk out of the massage place and I go, where the hell am I going to go now? So I start walking down a busy street.
What part of Vegas are you in?
I don't know, somewhere
deep that way, like
somewhere off strip. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I see a sushi place. So all you can eat sushi. So I go walk in all you can eat sushi place. I pull out my notebook and I see a guy over there. I go, I'm pretty sure that's fucking Dallo. I go, what is this kid doing here? He comes over. He's got like a date. He's with a little cutie girl there, kind of going on, and he's like, he's like, what are you doing? I don't know. I don't know how I end up here, honestly. Like, I don't know how I get up here. So Dallo was getting after her. It looked like he had a little Tinder date. Maybe I found her on Hinge or something like that. But he got some cute girl there. I didn't think he was going to be that cute. You know what I'm saying? So I was surprised, man. Shout out to my guy.
Don't hate the player.
That's the moral of the story. The moral of the story is I saw Dallo later that night in a random sushi place at like 10:30, 11, and I had a few drinks, and I was moving and grooving, whatever, man.
I'm gonna pull it back to
let's get back to what you were saying.
To finish the statement real quick. So people make the most mistakes.
No. They said I crashed his Tinder date. I actually think I did a lot for his Tinder date. I'm going to tell you why. Because think about it, right? If you're on a date with a girl, and this is why I remember like when he was leaving, I was like, I'm going to say, like, right? Think about if you're on a date with a girl and you pull up and you just happen to know one of the guys there, and you're like, oh, someone just chilling there hanging out. And you're like, oh, what's up? You kind of feel like, oh shit, okay, like whatever. This girl's gonna think I'm cool or something like that. So I thought I actually added to the date, and he got to be like, yeah, I don't know what the hell the guy's here for. So it was great. Let's get back to the game. Go ahead.
Shout out to Joey.
Whatever, man. Listen, I think they're definitely down in the back room. It's just a massage. That's it.
Yeah. I'm kind of a big deal.
Yeah, that was like, yeah. Listen, I know it for people everywhere. I'm the fucking king of Vegas.
Oh my god. Okay, so pretty much the biggest mistake people make in the mid stakes is that they don't find enough aggression, which means they don't restrain their opponent's aggression. And this is where some of the live pros, shout out to the live pros who think I'm a massive fish. I just show up with more bluffs than people do in live games, and there's this lifelong, like this old school adage that you're not supposed to bluff live or whatever. And that's just some bullshit, because if you're not finding enough aggression, your opponents can just be more aggressive against you. Like if you never are check raising the flop, your opponents can c bet 100% of the time, literally. And there's this place where you are really bad, and so you play way too many hands, and then you make money by playing tighter. And so your brain starts to think about it. It's like, oh, if I play tight, I make money. And then there's this inflection point when you're trying to kind of move past that and get into the, excuse me, maybe higher stakes games where you've made money playing tight for a while, but now you start to get to play against people who are just beating you up with aggression. If you don't restrain their aggression, you're going to get absolutely hammered moving up in the ladder. And that's somewhere where, and then there's some players that take that even to the extreme and play hyper aggressive. And then you have to kind of pull it back to,
that's me.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It's my style.
Yeah, I believe it. I'm on, like, it's so funny. There are some live games where people think that I'm a nit, and some live games where people think I'm the biggest whale in the casino because I play too aggro, kind of a thing. And it depends on who you're talking to. Some people think I'm atrocious. Some people literally will kill games so I can't play in them, kind of a thing.
And that's because they've seen you make some bluffs that
they seem out. For some people, they seem out of line. For some people, they're like, holy fuck, that dude found aggression there. I don't want to play against this dude, because they just want to play in their nice passive game where they just print money by playing tight or whatever.
Absolutely.
Right. And like I'm not that person. If you want a fun, aggressive game, I will get after it for you in that game. Like you do too, I'm sure. Like in the like that, you want it to be more fun for people by playing more aggressive, kind of a thing. But this actually goes way back to the conversation we were having earlier, where it's like, how much work do you want to put in your game to get to a certain level? Because there are some of the high stakes private cash dudes that haven't learned about being aggressive yet live, and they just don't want to have to deal with it. They don't want to have to think about it. They don't want to have to learn and get better at the game. They just want to play in their nice game against recreational players who are 3-betting deuce 3 4 5 tri suit, and they have like all their nice hands and they just print money. But what's going to end up happening is even the soft regs or whatever are going to end up getting better. And so you have to find the balance between putting in a little bit more time and then also, like doing your hustling to get into the private games or whatever.
So where do you, I guess, so you said for your future, you want to play more online World Series of Poker, like, because now you sort of are able to put the course out.
Yeah.
I think a lot more people in poker are getting more into the investment streets with the cryptocurrency stuff, and even with public markets, like stock market related stuff, and private investment world as well too. And I guess for people who are starting to realize like you can potentially make income in other areas, and at some point you get to a point where you've been in poker for a long time where you don't necessarily need to worry about grinding as hard as you can to continue to make a nice income, because you've already built a strategy that allows you to make 6 figures or something that you feel comfortable with, or your investment strategy was good enough. So do you feel like you are experiencing that now, where you've been a part of a business, you've built a bankroll through poker, you have people that invest in you, whether it's a poker related business or whether it's a different related business, and you also are in the investment streets. How does that affect the way you think about how you'd like to take this knowledge that you have for the great game of Pot Limit Omaha, the great game, mother game at Pot Limit Omaha?
Hell yeah.
And how do you think about that?
So for me, I love PLO. I love the game of poker. It's phenomenal. What didn't feel good to me was when I was battling at super high stakes and the swings would impact me.
Yeah.
Like that's where I made the largest mistakes in my poker career, is when I played so big that if I were to lose like X percentage of sessions in a row, it would start to affect me negatively outside of the game of poker itself. Mm-hmm. And so for me, what I'm trying to do with poker right now is play it when it feels good. And that can be like a 1-2 online, like a 1-2 live game with like me, you, and the homies, and that can feel phenomenal. Mm-hmm. It can be me battling like 10, 20 heads up online. It could be me streaming like 1-2 and 2-4, just have it be chill kind of a thing. It's less about maximizing my hourly rate and more about maximizing my sustainability, because for me, my biggest expected value from a monetary and a career perspective and a happiness perspective is not in poker as my end all be all. Mm-hmm. And so when I do play poker, what's more important to me is having it feel good, like having it feel healthy. And so that's what I'm basing my strategies around, because for my next project, for example, I'm not 100% sure if it's like, I don't see myself making another course immediately, but I love building products. Like I love teaching. I love the process of building a team of people to work with. Mm-hmm. Like that feels phenomenal to me. It's something that I've loved since the beginning of my career. And it was so super cool that I got to do that in poker. Like that felt great to be able to build products and teach in something that I love as well. And for me, what I'm really trying to use poker for, and what I've been fortunate enough to use poker for, is I now have sustainability. I'm not the richest dude in the world, but I'm not struggling. I don't live above my means. I live like a chill, fun lifestyle that is sustainable, that I now don't have to like use poker to pay the bills every day. I don't have to use poker to get my bankroll to a point where I would need it to start a company or whatever. I have that infrastructure set up. So now it's more about what actually feels good. Like what makes my days feel healthy. Yeah. And I go from there, and that's it, kind of a thing.
I feel like that's becoming more of a trend I'm seeing. I don't know if it's still like that with young people, because I know a lot of young people who don't necessarily take that approach to their life, but a lot of the high performers that I've been studying and kind of hear how they shift in terms of their messaging, and there does seem to be more of a focus on working, obsessing about what you're doing and having this sort of ultra competitive drive, but also doing it a little bit more healthily, right? Because I think some people can handle it and they can do it in a healthy way, and other people, they just can't. And I think some people decide if they can't do it in a healthy way, they might just quit it altogether. And you're sort of trying to building a process where it might work healthy for you, even if that might not have been the same thing that used to work for you a long time ago.
Oh, totally.
Meaning like when you're younger, you can put in these 10-hour sessions back to back days and then still feel great, still feel good, like be fired up, be excited. I guess why do you think that changes as you get older, and right, like maybe that desire to have those 10-hour sessions, like why do you think that might go away when it comes to poker? One, because it feels unhealthy to you potentially, and two, it's just maybe the way you see life differently.
I think so. I think you gave the answer. It's like you see life differently, and it feels different for you physically. Yeah. And like when you know this better than anyone else, putting in whatever your like 24-hour Mountain Dew infused like crazy grind sessions when you were 19, 20, 21, and being able to recover from that afterwards and not have it destroy your life. Whereas like for me, I didn't do that as much, but like in college, I would literally like wake up at 5:30 in the morning, do research for my research project in college, do homework for 2 hours, go to my professor that I was doing research with, talk to him, go directly to my class for 2 hours, do homework again, go tutor, and then go play quarter 50 from 5:30 to 9, get home at 10, wake up again the next day at 4:30, 5:30, and do that every single day. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't healthy. I burned myself out. I literally burned out so hard. I had to move to Vietnam and just like chill there for 5 months to recalibrate myself and teach myself how to not need stimulus all day, every day. And that's, I think,
Makes
one of the,
sense, yeah.
I think that's one of the big things also for the younger generation is that when you're playing 10 to 12 hours a day, you're stimulated that entire time. And maybe this isn't true for everybody, but for me personally, I wasn't as comfortable in the silence. I wasn't comfortable when I didn't have something to do, when I was just kind of chilling. My brain is such an active one that if I'm not crushing it and going hard the entire time, it doesn't feel healthy to me anymore. And so as I've gotten older, I've started to find an appreciation for stillness and for silence and for like taking time to just go out into nature. Like you put out a tweet yesterday, like just going to the park and walking around kind of. Oh yeah, the park is the nuts.
I'm a park influencer on Twitter right now.
Yeah.
I'm a park influencer on Twitter. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. A plus.
Yeah.
But yeah, that
influencer, influence and Poppy.
The big
just preaching life fucking have like go to the talk, call your mom. I'm gonna put that out today. You know what else I started doing? I start calling my mom. All right.
I should call my mom tonight.
Amen.
Shout out to my mom.
Shout out to your mom. Dude.
She's awesome.
Shout out to your mom.
Yeah, she's a
shout out to your mom.
It's funny the chat doesn't know what that context.
Fucking serious. It's like a serious conversation. We're having like a real serious conversation. This is great.
Super serious.
You believe we just in a podcast? Pretty unbelievable, isn't it?
You got to give the people what they want, right?
It's pretty unbelievable, yeah. We got this great PLO game going in the background. This guy is such a psychotic fuck online and live at live PLO. Like, how can you not want to play it? Look at these fucking guys. This is like the greatest. Like, this is just. Look at Zygmunt. He's just taking shots, giving this guy a back rub. You know what I'm saying? The Gorilla Gaming girl is going crazy.
Hell yeah.
This guy's got. There's a guy in the background. What the fuck is that guy doing? I better get the guy out of here. All right, I don't want a guy behind me. What does my guy got? Backdoor straight draw, 2 backdoor quad draws. No, this is Dawood, isn't it? Which one's this guy?
I have no idea.
Is this Dawood or is this Barua? This is Dawood. What has Dawood got? He's got top pair, nut flush blocker, gutter.
Yeah.
Jungle Man's got top set. Ay, puppy. Who wins this hand?
That sounds like something that's been said a lot in careers. Yeah, just Jungle Man has top set.
Yeah, Jungle Man has top set. The thing is, in this game, compared to the great Heads Up Nolan Home Challenge of 2020 we saw, Dan Negreanu versus Doug Polk, there was a lot more like, it could go this way, it could go that way, it could go this way. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was very fun without the whole cards.
Yeah.
People talked about wanting the cards. I didn't like it with the cards because I thought it was more fun to start to speculate. Because when you can see what each player has, you have a pretty good idea if nothing's going to happen. In most hands, nothing's going to happen.
Yeah.
So from like a live like suspense standpoint, you know, you sort of know, okay, like they're going to get all in here or whatever, right? Like to me, it just wasn't as, I liked it better without the cards. And I found that really interesting because I just really enjoyed the speculative aspect so much. Like, what does he got here, right? Like, you know, sort of like trying to figure out that process. But I guess the process just changes when you can see the cards, and the way you talk about the hand is just going to be differently and kind of like that. What were kind of your thoughts on that, Doug versus Daniel? Give me your real thoughts, right?
I'll respond.
This is hardcores only because now we're actually like an hour and a half into this. So
yeah, for sure.
The people that watching this far are real hardcore. So give them what you think about that.
For sure. I'm going to respond to what you said first about the whole cards versus not whole cards. I think that you liked not having the whole cards because your brain is stoked at solving the problem. Like that's what was beautiful to you about this match. You have two players who are really good, and Daniel is really good. I'm not going to talk shit on Daniel in that way. Two players who are really good, and you're speculating on what they could have given their strategy, given what's optimal, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
You're thinking really hard about it. A lot of people just want to look at the cards. They just want they're not there to like deconstruct both players' ranges in an optimal setting or given whatever the exploitative strategy is. Their job is to like sit there, look at the cards, and then watch big pots happen. And that's entertaining for some people. And then for someone like me and you, like I loved watching it because I got much better at Heads Up No Limit by just watching this challenge and seeing because I knew that I knew what was going on in the background for Doug. I couldn't talk about it while it was happening, but since he said it on stream, like I knew that he had pretty much the best team in the world on his team, and that he had this massive infrastructure in place where if he was doing something and I didn't understand it, that probably meant that I just didn't know what was going on, because this dude is for sure putting in the work to understand what is correct in as many situations as possible. And not only is it him, but it's a team of badasses. And when you have a team of people, when you put together the right team, I'm happy you asked me this question because I was going to go on a rant about this on Twitter. There are some people that got mad at Doug and were saying that it wasn't real that he won the challenge because he had a team of people, so of course he could win the fucking challenge. That is some straight BS. It is so hard to put together. So there are multiple parts about that that's challenging. Actually finding the right people is really challenging. Having the network and the resources to be able to work with them is really challenging. Building a process that just because everyone's really good doesn't mean that you're going to work well together. So you can find a way to get everyone to work on the same team, right? And then all that stuff, and then you actually have to execute on it as well. So there are so many facets to a challenge like this. It's why it's so it's so impressive that someone like Galfond has won as many challenges as he has as well. Because at the beginning he was making a ton of mistakes, and then he just got better and better and better and better. And that's because he's really good, but also because his process it has to be fire. You have to have a good team of people that are helping you consistently. You have to be good at learning as well. Like you have to be able to adjust your play accordingly to whatever the new information is. And so I was really tilted at people that were saying that Doug didn't deserve to win or whatever because he had a team of people behind him. That's even more impressive because not only did he have to execute on the strategy, he had to build all of this stuff, not just, and this isn't just from like this one challenge. Doug had access to all this shit because of everything he did over his entire life, right? He had Upswing as his brand, right? And so he got you don't just
he got the dudes. He got the backroom workers who were like, Doug, what do you need me to do?
I'm more talking about getting to work with like Button Clicker and people like
those
that.
Guys, those they just want to be, these people want to be involved. It makes sense, right?
Yeah. But they want to be involved with someone like Doug, not with Daniel.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, maybe they want to be involved with Daniel. I'm sure if Daniel asked someone for help, most people are going to be starstruck. They're going to say yes. They're like, Dan DeGrano wants something. I'm in.
I think it depends on which people you ask.
Maybe, yeah. I don't know, man. I feel like Dan DeGrano pulls up on you. Most people are going to give the guy help.
Yeah,
you'd be surprised.
I'm probably biased here because I wouldn't. Nothing against him. It's just like, if I'm gonna help, it's kind of like taking on an affiliate for a company.
Okay.
Like, who do you want your brand to be associated with, right?
Okay.
Kind of a thing. And for me, if I'm gonna work on a team, I only want to work with people that I would be comfortable saying are on my team. Like, I like working with you because it's like, yeah, of course I work with fucking Joey. He's a savage, right? I love working with Upswing because everyone there is kind and is a badass. So it feels good to work with those people. And that's one of the biggest things that I learned in my career, in and outside of poker, is that the team is what's really important. It's about putting together a group of humans that, with all of their combined skill sets, are absolute savages, right? And so, in this Doug Daniel challenge, it's like, I only want my brand, my inside, like, or let me rephrase this, the way people perceive me, as well as how I kind of perceive myself. I only want to be associated with people that actually would make me feel good in that way. And so dudes like Button Clicker and the best players in the world, I think that they're going to care more about being associated with a brand such as Doug's.
Makes sense, yeah.
Because he's like GTO oriented, has always been really stable kind of a thing. This is ridiculous in the background. I'm just like watching Hillary fucking slap his hand. Whereas I don't think those people would want their brands to be associated with Daniel, kind of a thing. And we can watch this if we want. It's so good.
Look at this guy. I love him. Look at this guy. I think we're going to get Juggaman on the podcast, by the way, as well.
Hell
Shout out Juggaman. Garrick Sisson says, I'm 55. My brain can only hold so much info. I understand PLO, but I'm not a post-flop crusher at all. If I buy Launchpad, would you pay someone to ask this question? If I buy Launchpad, when will I want to move to PLO Mastery? Is Mastery 10x better than Launchpad?
Okay.
I feel like you paid someone to ask that question.
Yeah. Do you want to answer or do you want me to?
Go ahead. You answer.
Okay. So it's not about
what is the difference between the courses? Yeah. Like
it's not about one being 10x better than the other. Both of them are way underpriced for the amount of value that they have. And it's on you to kind of get the EV out of the courses is the best way of describing it.
Okay.
Right. You can pay $1,000 for something and have it be worth nothing because you don't put enough work into it or you don't understand it really well.
Right.
Whereas there are some people, I've seen some graphs from some dudes that have made literally 6 figures just using the strategy defined in the Advanced PLO Mastery course. Not an exaggeration. Like their graph goes straight up to the right. It looks like Chris's graph because they're replicating his strategy. And so you want to use the beginner course.
Where are they playing at?
I don't want to talk about this.
Okay,
I can't talk about
Why
this.
not? Well, what are the options, right? You want to walk through the options? Is it public sites,
yeah,
private sites?
so
where are they playing? European, American sites, VPN? What are they doing? Anonymous,
yeah.
Screen name? Where are we at?
Yeah,
Where are we at with things? Let's break it down
stuff like
here.
Ignition.
Give them something, Poppy.
Okay, you can do it on Ignition. You can make that much on WSOP, the legal site here.
Okay.
You can definitely make it in the app games if you get the right games.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the places that you can do it for sure.
Mm-hmm. What about on a site like ACR, Party Poker, Poker Stars, GG Poker?
It's going to be harder to do it on ACR.
ACR's got a lot. You not only got maybe actual bots from Georgia and Azerbaijan.
By maybe you mean for sure.
Yeah. Listen, I was playing a lot on there. There's three guys from Georgia at the table, the country. You go. Are there 3 Georgians? There might be 3 real great Georgian guys that play kind of similar, right? Or that maybe there is, and they love ACR.
Yeah.
I just maybe that's true. I mean, it could be.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Okay.
But yeah, the big difference between the courses is just how much work you want to put into making your thought process really firm. And so the intro course, it gives you the tools to kind of start to talk to yourself about PLO, and it gives you them in a very easy to understand way. The Advanced PLO Master Course is like, here is how you think about things very structured from a game theory perspective, and here's how it applies to PLO. And those are 2 very different ways of approaching the game. One is like, okay, I have a somewhat solid thought process. I feel comfortable approaching games. I'm okay with not knowing the right answer. And then you have the Advanced PLO Master Course, like, we don't want to be okay with not having the right answer anymore. Not only do we have the correct thought processes, but we also have the means to make sure that our play is solid in every single spot. So it's not just about how to think about it. It's how to think about it, why we're thinking about it this way, and then how do you use all that information to actually build like the perfect strategy kind of a thing. And that's why the Advanced PLO Master Course is ridiculous. It literally, it's like people always complain about having to run solvers to have the GTO answers. You don't have to do that. Chris spent 5 months, like for every, I think it was something like for every hour of content we put out, Chris spent something like 10 hours on it, running the sims, digesting the sims, making PowerPoints, and then making the videos kind of a thing. And so you have this ridiculous amount of information from somebody who is really, really good at getting it condensed into this very easy package. And yes, it's not the most easy to watch in some spots because it's very technical, but it still is digestible, and you have a textbook made for you for something that would take so much time for you to do on your own. It's worth a ridiculous amount. Like I think that
it's underpriced for sure.
I mean, no,
I'm gonna tell you why. Actually, I think a lot of the best courses are underpriced massively.
They have to be,
because if you're telling me some of these products out there people pay for some of them, like then the best, like there's no way the best coach is worth his course is worth $1,000, because to me, it's all really in that coaching. Like the best coaches should probably be getting paid much more than they are, right? And I think the $1,000 thing, I don't know who decided that. I think Upswing decided that a long time ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's massively underpriced, and I'm really surprised we don't see more premium selections out there from people at a much higher price. Like I think this PLO course could have been much higher, right? And then you might say, okay, well, there's other things on the like, is it that much better? Is this? And from there, you kind of rely on the brand of that person as well, too.
Yeah.
So if you have a person who is clearly one of the best at what they do, and people know that they're one of the best at what they do, you communicate that message to them, you can charge a lot more than $1,000 for that. But it's sort of like market price is $1,000. Everyone just kind of went on $1,000, it seems like.
So it's not about what it's worth. It's about maximizing the efficiency relative to how much people will pay for it. That's the big
How do you think about that?
So it's like I could charge
slightly pivoting, but
yeah. I mean, this is some of my favorite shit. There's a really good book called Confessions of a Pricing Guru, I think it is.
Okay.
If you want to learn about pricing, there's a lot of optimal strategy in there and how to think about it. Cause like I had to run this exercise when I was doing my acrobatics festival. It's not about how much it's worth, but how do you maximize the amount that you can make off of it at different price points. And so this course is without a doubt worth more than $1,000. And we would have made money on it charging $10,000 per course probably if we wanted to. But we also would have made the product differently, right? The way that you make $1,000 product is different than the way you make a $10,000 product is different than the way you make a $100 product. And so it's not just about how much you can charge for it, but you pick a price point and then you build a product to that price point to optimize for that pricing level and the people who will buy at that pricing level. And so if I'm trying to buy at $1,000 pricing level, I make my product optimized in such a way where it can sell a lot of units at $1,000 price versus if I'm going to make a $10,000 product, it's going to just be like Sim Central. We're skipping all the introduction and you're just getting crazy value from really intense information, but it's not going to be as pretty visually. It's going to just be a crazy amount of information because I don't care about it being as digestible.
I see. What
kind
you're
of a
saying.
thing.
Interesting. Yeah.
And so you make the product relative to the price point. So the value in our course is worth more than $1,000, and it's not even close. But it was built to that $1,000 price point so that we could have as many people as possible get access to it that can actually use it. So you want to make it priced a little bit lower to allow more people a lower barrier to entry. And we kind of made the course to that lower barrier to entry. So like, yes, it is a advanced course, but it still starts at pre-flop. It still literally says, this is your pre-flop ranges. This is how you do single, like open betting, 3 betting, 4 betting, 5 betting, single race pots, multi-race pots, right? My course is it's a much more basic version of that.
Right.
But that's the point. You bring it down to what's absolutely necessary so that people can feel comfortable just showing up and crushing. For Chris's course, like you show up and now it's go time. We're building the PLO textbook from pre-flop moving forward. Mm-hmm. And we did that in such a way so that everyone could get into it, even at $1,000. And then we realized it's like, okay, this is technical and it's phenomenal. Like, but it's hard to sometimes understand it for some of the player base. And we learned that through my Twitch streams and things. So I'm like, okay, now I need to make a product where the content is made for a $99 price point. So I'm now thinking of my $99 price point user, and I want to sell a ton of units, right? I'm trying to sell I'm not going to sell 10x what I sold of the other course, but I want to have at least a multiplier of my other course to make it efficient at that price point. And then because then they work together, right? Someone buys one course and they buy the other course. It's a product package. And so you do your yeah. This is deep strat, y'all. You're like, why are you laughing? That's how.
This is like sick strat.
This is how you have to think about this stuff.
When I study like some of the top people, like I feel this is like kind of the stuff a lot of them talk about, right?
This is how it's because of how it's work. This is how it works.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, and so someone just asked a question. So we need 2 courses? No, you don't. The first course might be
deep in the lab, bro.
It might be all
so deep in the lab.
Hell yeah. The first course might be all you need, but we made 2 separate products for different points of your poker journey, and that's the point.
And this one's more of like an introduction sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Anyone can watch it. And it also is different than something like private coaching. There's like, I do some private coaching, but I price myself pretty high. And I get clients that I want to work with. I don't want to work with clients I don't want to put in 40 hours a week coaching at $100 an hour and make money that way. I want to do 5 hours of coaching a week at what my hourly rate is.
Right.
And then enjoy that experience way more because I'm picking who I'm working with.
That makes sense.
And I'm dedicating my time to that. And so coaching is a little different than the courses, but they're both products. And you price it based off of what you want the interaction with it to be. And then there are different optimal pricing levels, like the $99 one and the $999 one. Those are just like humans see those numbers and they love those numbers. And so the reason why you use them is because they're good numbers, kind of a thing. Like they just.
You think you could turn some in the chat into winners? Nasty Nate, Jennifer, Fred. You think my man Fred Withrow, we could turn that guy into a winner? What do you think, man? Bob Cobb. I think Bob Cobb might need a lot of work, but do you think we should take one of our great commenters, one of the people that watch live, the people that are supportive in the community? Do you think we could take one of them and turn them into a Pot Limit Omaha god? And if we could, how long do you think it would take us to do it?
Depends on them. I think that you can turn anyone into somebody who's a crusher. It just depends on how much work they're willing to put in.
How many hours do you think it would take?
So if somebody is, is it a random human in the chat kind of a thing?
Yeah, one of our people in the chat. But we got a lot of winning players in our chat. They got different than your chat.
Yeah.
My chat and Doug Polk's chat. You guys got a lot of losing poker players in your chats.
Yeah.
I got a lot of the winning poker players in my chat. So go ahead. What about for one of the winners?
So let's say that we want to beat PLO 200 online on WSOP.com.
Okay.
I think that starting from scratch, if somebody was tryharding, you can get there in 6 months if they had the funds available to them. Mm-hmm. And that's grinding their way up and learning things. I think that that's one. But that's assuming that they're trying really hard. It could never get there. And that's why as a coach, I'm really selective with who I work with. I only want to work with people that it just feels better to work with somebody who is invested. I don't care if you get to the highest stakes. I care if you're going to try. Mm-hmm. And I only want to work with people where that's true as well. That'll ask a good question. It's like, do you ever check on the competing courses for mine? I did, you always do competitor research. Like that's just something you do when you're building a product. But I actually didn't look at theirs at all from a like what was in their product when building my course. I just built it exactly how I thought it needed to be built, given the information that I'd gathered in my own research. I actually didn't rely at all on the competitors for structuring my course. I looked at what they had built just to understand what the ecosystem was, but I built my product from scratch. Like we talked about it a little bit, but I pretty much built it from scratch because I don't care what other people are doing. I think that I knew what the people needed more because I actually was playing in those games, and it's an empathy thing. When you're a good product developer, it's because you have empathy. You understand what people are thinking, and so you can give the people what they want and what they need at the same time, kind of a thing.
Very interesting stuff, Big D.
Hell yeah.
Very interesting stuff, man. I appreciate you for coming on. Appreciate talk more about this. The Hexologist with the raid. Is that those guys? My guys from Hex? Are those really from Hex? Yo, I got to get these Hex guys on. This guy from Hex has donated me like fucking a few $100s. This guy's a crazy guy, and every time we're like, we don't know if it's a scam or not. We don't really know what it is, but Hex guys are always showing a lot of love here for some reason. So,
all right.
Shout out to all the guys from Hex up there. Appreciate you guys very much. The Hexagons, I'm not sure really what that means, but I thank you guys very much for coming in. And I do appreciate everyone for tuning in, guys. Everyone who's watching live on YouTube, watching live on Twitch. If you're listening back on iTunes, if you're watching this back at a later date, do you want to try to you want to give away a course?
Hell yes, I want to give away
All right, how about at 500 likes, we'll give away a course on YouTube. So if we can get up to 500, we'll give away one. If we can't, we will. But Dylan, how about we give away two courses? Can we give away two courses?
I can give away one course. Okay, I can give away
two courses. Okay. All right. We're giving away two courses at 500 likes on the YouTube video. And who uses YouTube in 2021? Apparently 130,000 people do, because we've got a lot of subscribers on there. And the people keep watching the content on my YouTube channel. So listen, man, we do 7-hour streams, and there's 70,000 views that end up on the video. So people are down to see the vids. They're on to watch. They're enjoying the action, enjoy the fun. So
hell yeah.
So yeah, H. Burke says played a lot The Win with Mr. Weissman and learned a lot just listening to him talk.
Hell yeah. Wait. Oh, awesome. Super cool.
Yeah, I mean, am I buying the course? He was actually going through the course today. I thought it was like very well put together, very simple, and I sort of like, I was like, how much can they really put in here? You know what I mean? Like, there isn't to get introduction to PLO and like get started on your way. I think it's really challenging to a lot of people out there, but to me, like, it seems pretty straightforward. So for me, I like the way it's done. I'm gonna go through it a few times, and
totally.
I was actually gonna do something where it's the kind of thing I'm thinking about, right? No, I can't give this straight. I can't even give this away.
Yeah, don't.
It's because someone else does it. It's like I've never seen anybody do it before. I've been trying to think of new products I can do for poker training that don't already exist.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've come up with some ways, because like I'm thinking about myself, right? Like, people want to learn poker, right? Like, do they really want to learn poker from some of these people out there? Like, not fucking really. You know what I'm saying? Like, these people teaching Hold'em are just like so dry, and their style is like, questionable, whatever, right? No shots. It is what it is. We're just being straight with it.
Totally.
So I was like, you know what? If I just teach people poker in my style with the fucking explosions and the animals and crazy things, like, listen, I'm not going to get you to be the 5100 player battling Sauce 1 2 3 4 Kanu 7 Upswing Poker Mastery course, but it'll be more of like poker with Poppy. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got the Professor Poppy. I bring in the fucking the wizard over here, AP the AP poker, whatever you want to call it, right? You put like level 12, right? It's like a school. It's like poker with Poppy.
Yeah,
in
for
school,
sure.
you want to go to Dill, where do you want to go? What do you want to go see? You know what I'm saying? We got, I don't know what I was thinking about. I don't know if I ever actually do that or not, but
I'll talk about this. So
okay, go ahead.
I think that
We're 200 away, guys. I'm sorry. It's going to take some work.
oh yeah, I believe in you all. Joey got me to give away another course that I didn't think I was giving away. So I think that that's one of the most challenging things about poker content, is that a lot of the very good poker players were not good teachers. And I think that has a lot to do with empathy as well. If you're a massive crusher, it's really hard, and you've always been a massive crusher, it's hard to think about somebody who isn't a crusher right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is what you were talking. It's the same thing as like when you were talking about watching the Doug challenge. You wanted to watch it without the whole cards, because your brain wants to recreate things and kind of have that experience with it. And it's the same thing when watching this. Like you said, you're watching my course. Like, how much can people really get out of the introductory stuff and the pre-flop stuff or whatever? It just depends on what your approach is to it. And for someone like you who's more used to thinking about the game, it's really easy to.
That's what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like really easy to look at something, but for people that aren't used to thinking about these games,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot that you have to kind of teach them before they're ready to learn poker. And so in order to make really good introductory content and content like you want to make, you have to do it in such a way where you're at the same time as teaching poker, you're also teaching how to think. And you're teaching people how to, my tutoring company in college was literally learn to learn tutoring. You teach people how to learn so that they can then use the information to learn for themselves. And that's what's really important with a lot of poker content. It doesn't do that. Poker content, it just like shows you what the right answer is, but it doesn't teach you how to think about it, or it doesn't teach you how to learn it for yourself. And so that's something that I think you're really into, is something that I have as one of the axioms of my teaching philosophy. is that I'm not just going to teach you what the correct answers are. I'm going to give you a thought process to get there, and then I'm going to give you the tools to learn on your own. And that's where the best information comes from, in my opinion.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. Well put.
Thank you.
Well said, Poppy. Well said. Michael Diamond, fucking excellent idea, dude. Sign me up. Listen, okay. Daniel Moya, I might come out of poker retirement for Poker with Poppy.
Poker with Poppy.
Education.
The name is great too.
Poker with Poppy, and I wear the fucking glasses, and I wear like a sports coat. Think about this, right? Let's workshop this idea out here for a second.
I already
guys.
have the glasses. Actually.
I feel like this would be a banger series, right? And I bring people on and I teach them Poker with Poppy. I got the sport coat on. I got these glasses on, right? I wear this hat that says Poppy on it, and I wear like a suit with a tie, and like I come in with like a fucking notebook and a pen, and I'm Poker with Poppy, and I'm like teaching people poker. There's someone else on there, and I'm like to teach them, like okay,
Yeah, it works.
But you don't use the word solver, you
use different words.
Yeah.
So you don't
say like the program told me this, right? It's like what's that show? It's like one of these like dystopian sci-fi. You know what I mean? It's like the program told me this. It's like the AI overlord told me how to do this. You know what I'm saying?
I say sensei. I call the program overlord sensei because I don't want to. You actually gave me this advice when I was making the advanced course. Like, do not, if you call it Monker the whole time, I will kill you. You do not that harsh, but like you don't want to use it because you don't want to make people feel intimidated by it. So I would just call it sensei because it's the master, right? Like it's the thing that we're learning from is a better way of describing it. And so when I talk about the programs, it's like I don't think about them as these like complex computer programs. I just think about them as the textbook that I'm learning from or the software that I'm learning from. But that's because I know how to learn, right? And that's the biggest thing. And that's the same thing with someone like you as well. It's like you know how to learn really, really well. Like you're better at learning than other people are. And so it's intuitive for you to kind of just like take all this information for granted really quickly. But for
study that a lot, yeah.
Yeah, no, learning to learn is a real thing, and so you need to not take that for granted when teaching people. You not take for granted that they know how to learn, and that's hard for a lot of people who are getting into it. But I think the Poker with Poppy thing is good because you've been making content for so long, you know what the people want. Right. And if you know what the people want, you can give them what they want. It's the easiest formula ever. And that's why you can't make a good product if you don't know what your product, like there are so many people out there that are like, I have this great business idea. And I know it's a great idea because I need this kind of a thing. And I'm like, I don't really care. It's like, just like, yes, if you need it, maybe other people need it, but you have to know who you're selling it to and why they need that. Like, what is their pain points? And really think like them. Because if you do that, you're actually able to bring value to the table because like I don't care how good your information is if nobody watches it and understands it, kind of a thing. But that's something that you're going to be able to do better than others because
Poppy University.
We
get a bunch of graduates walking around the casinos of the world.
PPU.
Just walking around with Poppy's University, right? And they walk around and you guys like, it's like Harvard, right? It's like the fucking Skull and Bones Club of poker where you guys see each other and you guys know like, hey, like this is us. Like we're in this together. You know what I'm saying? The University of Poppy.
Yeah. U of P.
Johnny Vibes, my man, teaching a course on high quality fucking videos, man. Listen, man, I don't know.
Yeah.
Is there a secret to high quality videos or is it all a camera? I don't know. Right?
You would know better than I would.
Is there a secret? I don't know. Do you just spend money on a camera and your quality's high? I don't know how it works. I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out. So
I can give. How much strat should I give away right now on that on that subject specifically?
Which subject?
Making good videos.
Go ahead.
So remember Fragrant Jewels, the company that I worked for?
Yes.
So I worked for a company that literally their product was candles with rings in them. That's it. It's like Pokemon cards for white women in Texas, kind of a thing. And I say that because we literally had data to say that was our largest group, like 20% of all of our sales, that was the product demographic. And so you can like very easily kind of build products towards it. But I remember at that we were making different content and literally measuring like how long it was and what type of lighting we used and how many words people said.
Wow.
And then
deep into it, huh?
Yeah, like deep into it. And then we had a couple go viral and we were deconstructing how they went viral and then what the different traits they had were, and like you can like put that into a model to predict which videos will do really well. So I make a video after breaking a video down into different traits. You put it into a computer model, it can tell you what the probability of it being successful is. It's like when you look at
is going on.
No, but it's true. You see it like you look at YouTube and all the ones that have 5 million views have the same type of thumbnail, And the same, like there's an optimal strategy.
I actually built a solver like this.
Yeah, it exists.
But I don't usually use it. It's like it's real easy though with the solve. It's like for YouTube specifically to know which content's gonna do well is real easy. You just gotta make that content will do well.
Yeah.
But I like making like content that isn't necessarily as optimized for YouTube, right? Like this is not optimized for YouTube. This is the least. This is literally the worst format of content I could ever consider doing, but I just really enjoy doing it. So that's why I say, oh, whatever, fine. Yeah. And but I think also it is valuable to people that actually do tune in and watch it. So I'm not worried about the content specifically. I'm more worried about the actual like packaging for the platform and whatever, right? You don't get as many people, but I think the sacrifice that you have is well worth it. And that's always been the approach I've taken. It's gone really well for me. So it's like, okay, I like that. But with the idea of optimizing your content for each platform, to me feels very, very maybe, I guess, inauthentic in a lot of ways. And it's like, you know, you're basically like, I'm only making this because like it's going to get views. To me, like the thought of thinking about things that way like kind of makes me sick. And I don't know why that is. I don't know why I have such like a battle with that idea. But what do you think about that, Dylan?
That's why some people quit poker. It's because the same thing happened in poker, right?
I see. It's more like robotic and you know what I mean? Like YouTube's really easy YouTube's really easy. Like I don't know how to really describe it. Like it just, the formula what works is quite straightforward.
It's a game that you have to solve, right?
Yeah.
And so it just depends on what game you want to play. It's kind of and it's like, do you want to play the game of getting the best at being efficient in making your process, or do you want to play the game of playing a game?
Yeah.
And for poker, it was the game of playing a game for a long period of time, and then it transitioned. And it's the same, like, I think the same thing is probably true with YouTube. But what's really cool with something as complex as media is that this type of...
thank you, Adam.
Yeah, thank you. This type of content can just go on a different platform and do well, right? You can still make the things that you love and have it be seen as long as it's good and high quality. It just has to go in different places in order to be the most efficient that it can be. But then there is that inflection point for something like YouTube where it's like you can't make something like this and have it do really well from a views perspective. It just won't happen.
Right.
You're not going to compete.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, it depends on what you're talking about with, you know, with competition or whatever, and I guess like that. Yeah, I don't know. I'm actually going to take YouTube a little seriously this year.
Okay.
I'm about to pop the shit off a little bit. Okay. But no, actually, I'm kidding. I'm probably not going to. But you know, I've been thinking about a lot. Let me wrap you a little bit. Let me give you something.
Please.
Now we're about 2 hours in, right?
Yeah.
So talk me out of the idea of just taking a majority of my capital and just going straight into investing right now with crypto and with public markets, because the people I talk to are generally very, very sharp at what they do. They tend to have good investments. Everything right now seems to be doing quite well. Crypto, there seems to be a ton of opportunity. If you can research, understand data, understand how to do that, if you have good people to learn from and you can find good information, you can put 24 hours into it and kind of obsess over it and take all the same steps I would for poker. Why not go that route versus this route I'm going now, which is more about the idea of building a business around playing poker and also around the content creation, product design, partnerships, affiliate. You know, I just don't want to sell my soul to the corporate overlords that are big price point major poker operators, right? Like something about working with some of these people, which I might end up doing anyway on some projects, but something about that being like the end result for you as a content creator just doesn't quite sit well for me.
You know,
and
it doesn't have to either.
Yeah. So what do you think about why not just go do that?
It just depends on what will make you happier. I think that you're going to be the most successful in the thing that allows you to be sustainable. And the things that allow you to be sustainable are those that you feel good doing. Mm-hmm. And so I wouldn't talk you out. I think that you can be successful in investing. I'm not going to say that skill set isn't within your range. It's 100% in your range. Mm-hmm. But is that the thing that will make your days feel the best?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
And if it's not, because it is super similar to poker, and you did that for such a large period of your life, and so you have to be honest with yourself and say, okay, even if I can do really well at crypto and investing and make a lot of money in it,
more investing and all the possibilities out there. Reselling markets. I mean, I used to do that when I was 14.
You're talking about trading generally.
Trading assets, right. Yeah. Whatever, not just necessarily specific to those, but more so, yeah.
I mean, you can do really well in that, but will that make you happy? Is your day, so if you wake up, do your shit in the morning, and then you show up and look at your charts for the day, is that what's going to make you feel good waking up in the morning? Is that what's going to give you stoke?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
And if that's not it, then don't do it. That's it verbatim. And it's kind of like it's an adjustment on the old maxim of like do what you love, like do work that you love kind of a thing.
Right.
Because you don't have to love your work, but you do have to feel good doing it generally. And that's where the big difference is. Like, I think a lot of people, if they have a choice, like a lot of people don't have a choice and they just have to do the work that they need to do to survive. And I respect that 1,000%.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's nothing wrong with doing work that you need to do to survive. This is for people that are fortunate enough or put themselves in a situation.
What does that mean? Survive? So your survival, right? Isn't that oftentimes? I mean, it kind of depends on your mindset, right? I think that you might feel like you're in survival while someone else might feel like you're thriving as well too. So do you think that's a lot of created on our own?
I think that it just depends on what you're optimizing towards. So a lot of people like
go back to the original point you talked about.
Yeah. Like I think a really good example is my dad. My dad worked as a editor for 25 years, 45 hours a week, sitting in a room. And we always I was very, very fortunate for the stable environment that he created for me. And he wasn't optimizing for his days feeling best. He was optimizing for being somewhat comfortable in his life and then making sure his family was successful and then having that be the balance point. And so so he didn't love his work, but it felt good enough and he could support his family in some situations. And so that's surviving in that he put food on the table and for a lot of my life, he was able to create a sustainable house infrastructure for me to learn and grow. And then when that became a little less stable, I was then in a place because of all the work that he'd put in to be able to help him already, even at a young age. And that's something that poker gave me that I was really thankful for. But that's the big thing is that survival is really what you define it to be. And for some people, unfortunately, it's literally just putting food on the table to eat with or having a roof over your head. And that's what they're basing it off of. And even though that sucks, that's what some people's reality is because it has to be. They have no other choice. And so that's how I would think about that. But for those of us that are more, that have a little bit more play, right? Like we have the choice of what we want to do with our lives kind of a thing, which a lot of people do. I think what becomes really challenging is not thinking about it or you do think about it in terms of how much money can I make and is this the quote unquote best use of my time? And we don't frame what the best use of your time is because we're not optimizing towards the right thing. We're not optimizing towards health and sustainability. And for me, it's totally a common, part of my sustainability is going to be something that does well financially for me personally, because my sustainable looks like me not having to think about money and then also about me being able to support the system around me. I don't just want me to be stable. I want me and my people to be stable. And so I'm trying to find work and projects that allow for me to feel healthy in my days, but I'm willing to give a little bit of that up in order to be more sustainable to the people around me and be able to support the system around me. But I'm choosing that, right? And so I'm not going to complain if I'm a little more tired than somebody else is because I'm making the active choice of doing what you're doing. Yeah, exactly. But you can only Froggen's a great mod. But
time anybody out you want. But go crazy with it.
Yeah, Froggen's the homie.
Go crazy with it.
But that's kind of what you said, talk me out of this. Is doing the trading thing going to be what makes you feel the best every day? And are you willing, and maybe it won't, but you're willing to give up feeling good in order to make a lot of money? And you're making that choice. And that's the big thing is if you're aware of making the choice, it's easier to sit with it. But if you're not aware that you're making that choice in your trade-off, you're going to suffer a lot more because you're not consenting. You're not opting into this thing.
I'm probably just going to do both then. That's what I've decided. Both. I think both is to play.
How
do you not get in this whole investing thing? These guys are going crazy. You talk to the guys and they go, this is what I'm investing in. It seems as if, right, there is a gamble, there is risk, of course. I don't care if I lose it, it's fine.
Yeah.
So it's I'm very risk adverse. I've definitely gambled in way worse spots before in my life where with parts of the roll and the upside in some of these investments, especially with some of the markets that are forming early, there's NBA Top Shot that's out there that's kind of popping off right now, modeled after NBA 2K My Team and those sorts of programs that have a lot of opportunity in there because you're going to have a lot of people in there that don't know what the fuck they're doing. And if you have a sharp strategy in any game, you're going to be able to profit from the game. You just have to learn what the rules of the games are. So if you have that much money moving through these markets and you know the people who are near the top of terms of returns on these platforms and who seem to have one of the sharpest strategies, and you can find the people who are publicly sharing the sharpest strategies related to these things now because people have to give away the information. It's why would you almost not do that, right? And why not get involved, especially if it's not very hard to do and not a big time committing thing. And so, yeah, I guess like the overall challenge is to structure opportunity in your mind to line up with what you want your life to be, I guess, right? And I guess that comes back to what you said earlier about deciding the intention and having like a clear vision for whatever it is that you want to be doing or spending time on, or if it's just doing something that you feel healthy and happy and whatever doing, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's like, you just because you have access to all that information doesn't mean you need to use it. Like for me, I don't invest actively. I just trust. I trust people that are really putting time and effort into it, and I'll like. It's like I create relationships with those people. I learn what they're doing. I have a strong enough general vocabulary for investing. Like I understand the fundamentals of investing and how the financial markets work. Like I'm fortunate for the thing that I studied in college, which is literally financial mathematics kind of a thing. And so because I understand how all that works, I can just listen to people that know what they're doing and then put less thought into it and put my time somewhere else.
Yeah, so you're saying, yeah. So you just find people who are the best at what they're doing and sort of follow them into battle in some type of ways.
Yeah,
yeah,
pretty much. And it
makes sense too. Yeah, I don't think about it like that as much. Like I don't think about the idea of like I know a lot of real sharp people about all different things, and you have access to those sharp people who'd be more than happy to share their information with you. I don't ever think like, oh, let me go find that information out. So
well, it's not even that you're doing that strategically. Like I'm not, like for example, I'm not friends with you because of the things that you know. I'm friends with you because of who you are as a person.
Okay.
And so what tends to happen is people that have those just like solid intentions, they tend to have a diverse skill set and are able to work together because that's what happens with homies.
And people are so funny in the chat. They're just I just find it funny.
Yeah, dude, when you start talking about, I haven't been talking about crypto or finance at all on any of my content because this is kind of what the chat turns into. And I don't know.
Oh, the chat turns into like people arguing. Yeah, I mean that's why that's such a great game is insolved, right? Like you can have this. Like I like it where you can have discussions about like, you know, you can sort of like talk about things like this and there is some disagreement. I don't mind the disagreement because in poker where it seems to have gotten to is like the things that we disagree with in poker are so fucking stupid that it's like, did he get lucky or not? Like we're debating for 7 hours if the guy got lucky or not. You know what I'm saying? Like to me, that just isn't very interesting to me at all. You know, is the guy lucky? Is he's lucky? Like, you know, there really isn't, even on the Daniel and Doug match, we can talk about that here. You know, what is there to talk about really in that situation, right? Because you can't necessarily debate the hands. Like, you know, you sort of try to explain the hands and that might be interesting to people out there who want to learn more. But I guess what narratives arise from the actual play itself that you could even find an interest in as a fan of poker? Like, you know, could a casual fan of poker find that? I guess the casual fans just see the big pots and the big swings and that's all they associate with. And maybe I'm just thinking way too deeply about it. And none of those things matter really. Like the big pots is what matters, and you know that's sort of what a lot of people want to see, and that's probably what's going to draw the most people in. Is just like, here it is, the big moments packaged for you in a way that's easy to understand and take in.
I think that it's both. So the best content is something that's actually why the challenge was so cool. It's because it had the massive pots with the big names, and it also had the most advanced strategy in the world at the time for a game that's really interesting. And so it appealed to someone like me who isn't an expert in that format, but has a vocabulary of thinking about poker. And so it's really good content for me to watch because I get to see somebody who's one of the best in the world and then somebody who is also very, very good in approaching it from a different perspective. And then seeing what is the top strategy. And it also has like $1 million swings, right? And like really big pots showing up. And so the best content I think can apply to both. I think
energy brewing over here.
You said bad energy?
Big pot energy. Big pot energy. Big poppy energy. Great times only. GTO. Dare I say. Great times only.
Great game?
Great game of pop in Omaha. Exactly.
Yeah. No, I dig it.
I don't know, man. That whole challenge thing. I thought the challenge was so fun. I wish it was a little shorter, though, somehow. I don't know what it could be. I wish it was 2 evenly matched players. That'd be more fun.
Totally.
You know?
Yeah, that was a big thing also. It's like when you knew what was going on, you could see that Daniel was getting just like his face kicked in for a lot of it. But I think one of the biggest things with finance that I actually, I think this is something that the general population is not as aware of, is that it's pretty solved. Like we, as humans, have really gnarly machine learning. Like some of the most some of the most money that's been put into anything in the past decade is financial engineering. And so a lot of the general population is building a vocabulary for finance right now, but it doesn't mean that so there are literally teams at these large hedge funds that have 40 PhDs from Stanford all working together in a room building ridiculous machine learning. And you're battling that. And that it's kind of have you seen the AlphaGo documentary on Netflix?
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
So it's that paradigm where when you have a team of really smart people working together, you get exponential results out of technology. And that's where something like humans, which we used to be really good at, such as trading, right, with that intuition and that pattern recognition, we are going to be overtaken by machines no matter what. And that doesn't mean that you can't, as an individual human, win in an economy like this or at this game, but I think that the general population vastly underestimates how much gnarly technology there is in finance currently, and those are the biggest winners.
Right. So do you think that the average person, right, how do they fit in that world and the finance world, investing world, right? Like it seems like
it's hard. It's a tough
there's
spot.
many different strategies you can use where either higher risk or you can go with lower returns, and that's why a lot of people use the advisors, the financial advisors, and pay them the fees, and that's why they have jobs, right?
Yeah, I think it goes back to education. So the general population is being educated from content, and a lot of the times content is selfish, right? People are making content not because it's the best for the people watching it. Like I think that's true for a lot of financial people. People are making financial content to benefit themselves. And so when there isn't a solid base of information, when the education is coming from a content perspective and a non-moderated content perspective about something as volatile as finance, you get a lot of bad actors in the ecosystem. And it's very similar to poker in the past. People would make poker content not to teach the community, but just to make money with it because they say that they could. And so for the general population, when it comes to finance, I think that we're going to get destroyed in our current ecosystem unless our collective understanding and our vocabulary comes up, because given the way that our current infrastructure is set up, it is such a win more game, right? You put 40 PhDs from Stanford in a room, they're going to beat 20 million people. 40 versus 20 million kind of a thing in terms of knowledge and understanding. So you just get vastly disproportionate returns. But as our collective consciousness and understanding goes up, and as our education becomes more robust about our current financial system, it becomes a little more efficient. The biggest issue right now is the massive gap in understanding and in education, because those that are it's like we had this conversation a couple months ago where you're like, yo, I didn't know how like money worked, but now I do. And it's like, holy shit, if I was playing this game since I was 21, I would have had X amount more money.
I'd be a billionaire right now.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'd have been something. I'd have been 100. I'd have took my shot, right? Because it would have been fun. It would have been a different game. Yeah, I didn't even think about it like that. Really, like the whole like playing poker. I just literally just thought about it as like a game. You know what I mean? I didn't really think about it as like, you're playing this other like wealth game, whether you're knowingly or you're either the fun player or you're a sharp player, right? And I always knew that. I was like, I never thought much about that or put much emphasis on that for me. And then once I really started studying it a lot this year, which is the history of finance and the Federal Reserve and the history of assets and the history of currency in general, and sort of like it started with like world history and then American history and then like world policy makers. And I was like, oh, fuck me. Okay. There's a lot of crazy shit happening up here, right? Then you get in the conspiracy theory realm, which is more like, then they bring up some other ideas and you're like, oh, what's true? What's not true? You know what I'm saying? Then you go off of what is in the most distinguished sort of textbooks or documentaries by these like official sources. You kind of look at unofficial sources, you combine these ideas together and you say, how do I want to fit in this world, right? Do I want to be rich? Do I want to be poor? Do I want to be trouble? Do I want to be in line, out of line, right? You start thinking, okay, well, what the fuck do you want to do and how do you want to do it? And yeah, money sort of fits in there because that's such a big part of how people live and operate. And then I look back at my own approach to things and I go, wow, I was kind of pretty fucking idiot because I had no idea what was happening. And obviously, right, that makes sense. I never learned that really necessarily. No one ever taught me that. And
yeah, exactly.
And that's the difference when you grow up around in a family with money. They teach you how to manage money and how to handle these things. And when you don't grow up that way, you got to learn those things on your own. And if you don't learn those things on your own, you're going to learn them on your own, right?
Yeah,
it's just going to take a little slower. And yeah, so I thought that was quite interesting. Something I realized a lot this last year when I took a break from poker.
But I think so. It's really interesting because like what you're describing, when you aren't taught something young and you learn it, it's like you get a big slap to the face and it's more jarring. It's hard to. It takes more time to settle. after you kind of get that big slap in the face. Where if it's something that's been a part of your family vocabulary or just your personal vocabulary for your entire life, even if you learn new information, you already have the ability to talk to yourself about it. And so it's not as shocking. It doesn't take time to come back from learning new information. And in finance, that's especially true because it's something about the way we're built as humans, right? Something about our evolutionary vocabulary. We built this system that is a metric for exchange of energy in a lot, like in these weird ways, like just a way of trying to manage our collective existence on this planet. And there's a lot of survival instinct that gets built into that system, right? Like if you have a lot, you want to make more so you can keep it. And like greed is built into us as well. It's just it's a fascinating topic. And it's really interesting that, that it's now becoming a part of our actual general vocabulary.
It's kind of more trendy.
Yeah.
Especially in our world. It's become more trendy. Yeah.
Definitely. Shout out to Emily Rose. What's up, Putch?
Listen, guys, we're 2.5 hours into the stream. We might be going a little off the poker route. We're two guys just having a conversation. All right, guys?
Yeah.
Just having a conversation. What do you think about Landon versus Bill Perkins?
I mean,
Landon's like hungry. He's been hanging out with me too much. He's hungry. You know, he's like my you know what I do is like a lot of attention based, and you know there's always that idea of attention, and marketing is about attention and creating engagement and creating moments and content and getting people excited and getting people hyped up. And Landon's been around that kind of energy for a while now, so obviously he's like commentating. He's like, I don't want to be fucking commentating with you, Joe. I want to be playing the challenge. I'm like, okay, makes sense, right?
Yeah.
He like hit to this younger generation, like to some people, once they get into that like attention status game, like that becomes part of the game too, is that I don't only want to be good, I want people to know that I'm good. And it's starting to become more accepted in the younger generation, I feel like, whereas the older generation, that was sort of like looked down upon. Whereas now people are on Twitch, they're popping off on TikTok. It's like, oh, like you made it. Like we recognize you as being good for this, right? It's more like that's sort of what the game is to a lot of these younger people I've been noticing. And there are people that still like to do things low key. Plenty of people like to do that, right? I can't wait to be in that position personally. But it seems like Landon's one of those guys. He's just like, I'm ready to everyone to know my name, sort of thing like that. I love it.
He's hungry. I think that's the biggest thing. It's also like he has a lot of energy, right? It's kind of what we were talking about with the whole being 21 versus being 30 thing. I remember when Galfond was doing his challenges, we were internally debating as to whether or not to take them because he challenged us pretty much, like Chris and I. And so it was less about us not believing that we would have an equity edge, and that's debatable. I don't even want to debate that topic. But it's more about how much time and effort and energy you have to dedicate to a challenge like this.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so,
every day.
Yeah, every day. And so that's the big like someone like Perkins, he's not going to be going as hard as Landon, and it's not even close. But Landon gave him 9 big blinds per 100 hands, which is he gave him a hefty price. And so Landon has to make up that price that he gave and the amount of work that he puts in. Right, there's a direct amount of energy put in. It's like, all right, you're giving someone this many big blinds, you have to be this much better than that person. And in order to do that, you have to put in this much work. Because remember, it's not about how good he is right now. It's about how good he can get during this challenge and how good can he get specifically against Perkins in this challenge.
Yeah,
it's like, how do you build a system against this person of like your team, right? It's not just about Landon. There's so much that goes into it. And Perkins is a smart dude, right? Like Perkins made a big bet, and he's going to put work into it also. Like he's not an unintelligent person. He's going to have his team as well.
I'm so excited to see if Perkins actually can get.
Yeah.
It's such a blow to the high stakes community though that Perkins is going to get good because he gives so much action, and he's like, you know, he just doesn't care. He's doing very well in his other businesses, and he's got this idea planned out. He doesn't care if he loses millions of dollars playing poker. To him, it's like it's for fun. It's a good time. So now that he's going to have to get a lot better. And people have said, am I going to stream the Landon and Perkins challenge? I'm definitely going to be covering that challenge, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like this might be poker. This might be the start of Poker Mountain.
Oh,
maybe we get the first match on that fucking on that beautiful slab of rock, baby. The mountain, Poker Mountain. Maybe the debut. I don't know. I mean, it could be. It could be. Let me check the tag. Oh, maybe it could be.
Oh man,
it could be.
What is Poker Mountain? I don't even like you guys have said that so much in my periphery, but I don't know what it means. Like, what is it?
Poker on the mountain. Poker Mountain. Imagine, Landon. A drone comes in. Welcome to Poker Mountain. My name is Joe Ingram, 1 aka Chicago Joey. Right? And then it pans out and there's a poker table, poker in the mountain, right? And then you got Landon playing there, battling it out. You got Perkins over here with the fucking Perkins hat on, battling it out. You got a beautiful dealer up there, nice male, female. I don't know what kind of dealer is going to be. Maybe Danielle might be a dealer. I don't know. Dealer right there, right? People are shooting it around. The drone's flying in. It's like fucking Star Wars. It comes by. Gets that beautiful shot, that beautiful survivor-like shot, right? We start walking up the mountain. We're up the mountain. And, we're getting to know the players. We're getting to know everybody like that. You get up the mountain, and then the game's playing. They're playing hands. The battle's going on. They're playing on the mountain. There's the dealer. There's the cards. There's the game. There's the commentary. There's explosions.
All right.
And then we crash a helicopter on the mountain, and it blows up, and that's our explosion that we use when we need to use that explosion. The game's played. The players battle. They get excited, and then Poker Mountain.
Oh, man. Do we know when it starts?
There's gorillas, there's tigers, there's snakes. I got a message from someone in Barcelona that said, yo, I own a mountain. I go, get the fuck out of here. He messages me. He's like, you're not going to believe this. We used to play poker together 10 years ago, and I own a piece of property south of Spain that you can use for Poker Mountain. And I go, this is getting out of control fast, and I'm in.
Oh, man.
And I'm all in. So that's what we got. Okay.
Give
us some questions, guys, about the course, about anything, about the upswing, about the people earlier talked about if you're not cheating at high stakes or colluding, then you're being cheated. What do you think about that?
It's tough. I mean, real-time solvers are going to become more common.
Right.
That's a truth of the world that we live in.
Right.
Like the technology exists, and if the technology exists, people are going to use it, and it's really hard to enforce. That doesn't mean that you can't create situations for yourself where you know that you're playing against other humans, right? Like in the largest games, everyone in the game knows who it is. They know it's not a bot. Right. It's possible someone else is playing on your account, but there are ways I think that you can get around that as well. And so.
So it sounds like what you're saying is you agree? I think that's why I don't really play much anymore.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree in some sense. And I think that you can be strategic to get around it. I think both are true. Is the way that I would say it.
Here, take a few questions, Pop. I'm gonna go to the bathroom. You
Okay.
kind of look like from that angle, right? You look like that guy in what's that movie called? Heat. One of the guys in Heat. 95, Al Pacino, De Niro. You look like one of the guys in Heat. Val Kilmer for a little bit when he wears that hood. He's wearing like a cap. He's got the AK-40, whatever.
All right. Okay. Chat, what questions you got from me? So do I think there are solutions, or do you just have to play live? I think there are solutions. All right. Humans are really cool in that they are good at adapting to whatever the ecosystem is. So online poker is not going to die because there's a lot of money in online poker. And so the people that are the operators are going to find solutions. I haven't put a lot of thought into it. It's not my area of expertise. So I don't want to comment on that. What else we got? Who would win heads up, me or Joey? I think I would probably take myself. Fuck you. Is this course optimized for online? It is taught in an online environment, but you can use it live and online. There are live sections of it. What else we got? Please ask Dylan if he's willing to do individual training on Skype. I do private coaching, but I'm pretty selective with who I work with. You can DM me on Twitter if you want more information.
Bro, give him some of the OnlyFans strategy.
Oh, that was...
Give him some of the OnlyFans strategy.
I forgot that
Can we plug your OnlyFans fan?
I actually got consent.
Are we all gonna have a circle?
We're allowed to talk about it.
Are we all going to circle it around about her? Okay, so Dylan did commentary with Doug.
We're allowed to talk about this now. I asked.
He did commentary with Doug for Doug and Daniel, and I went to the bathroom in the 30. What's going on here out there, man?
Are we talking about OnlyFans?
No, we probably should. Let's watch some of this game. Let's see what's happening in this mix here. Okay, you ready?
Okay.
You want to lock in?
For this? Sure.
Let's lock in for a second.
That's a lot of hands.
All right, great game. Pot in Omaha.
Single race pot.
We got my man Luce Leon. This is at King's Casino. Shout out to Luce Leon. King 9-7 board, 2 hearts. My man Langman with a queen high flush draw with a pretty decent hand right here. Pretty anticlimactic, but most times in these multi-way pots it plays relatively tight, right, Dylan?
Yeah. You really want to play you only want to play combinations that have the ability to make the nuts in these multi-way pots. So a hand like Queen 5-3 is bad because it has a second nut flush draw, and because your queen is not an out either, because it's likely someone has a higher set, or if you have a queen, Jack 10 makes a straight. And so a hand like this just does not play well multi-ways. This is one of the very specific, like very few scenarios where you're going to be winning.
You had a great hand. You got 2 pair kings and queens.
Yeah.
Doesn't look like anyone's going to take a stab here and bluff, which sometimes you might see late position if they have bottom of their range. They might stab, but never necessarily that often.
It's really hard to
5-3 takes it down.
It's really hard to bet this board without a king.
On the flop.
On the flop, no, on any point in this hand, multi-ways. Generally, it's really hard to. So what I've learned for multi-way pots is that if you don't have the top card on the board, or you don't have the best possible type of draw on the board, you cannot take aggressive action. And it's because it's just likely that someone else has that combination, and so you just have to be cognizant that there are 12 other cards out there that you're competing against. And so it's likely that someone's going to be able to battle against you. And that becomes more true in like 3-bet pots, for example, because you now have multi-way 3-bet pots where everyone has a really strong range. And so it's even more likely that the second nut flush is not a good hand, because you're playing multi-ways in a scenario where ranges are much tighter than in a single raise pot.
Here we go, picking up this hand.
Yeah.
Leon raises king 10 9-9, 1 suit. King queen
Action.
jack calls, ace king jack 7, jack high suit, and the button calls as well too. Looks like they are pretty deep here. Blinds 50, 100. They're both about they're both pretty deep. Actually, Villeman's all in for 14.
That's not a bad chip for 14 bigs.
Ace king jack 7 might get 1 full here, or even if he does go 3-way, I guess he's not.
The shorter you are, the more high card power you want.
Right.
You care less about like the
Suited-
ace high
the
flush
suitedness,
draw.
yeah,
You care
yeah.
more about the high cards at the shallower stacks.
So Leon does call. Bishan calls as well too. Flop comes down. 8-5 deuce rainbow. Leon backdoor quad draw, backdoor straight draw, backdoor flush draw. Bishan overpair, probably no action on this board. Probably both players go check.
His body language says I've got none of this.
Check. Bishan looks like he's ready to kill himself right now. Sitting back in that chair. Looks like he's down about $1 million for the day. You got that guy in the yellow jacket. Look at that yellow jacket, Dylan. My God, look at that guy's fucking jacket. He's got it zipped down a little bit too. Nice like choker, little like choker necklace he's got going on there. His glasses.
It's a very specific style.
Guy looks like he probably loves fucking nice Italian ladies, something like that. Probably looks aggressive. He looks real aggressive at a nightclub. You know, gets this guy at a table. He's like pulling the girls past the rub. Come here, baby. Come here.
You know what I'm saying. Makes me uncomfortable. Yeah.
Yeah, that is what it is.
What else we got? So.
What the
I apologize. Play for you.
I don't know what is, the graphics are not. This is not
Not the highest quality.
This is not the highest quality right now, but it's okay. This is a cash game, guys. This is a cash game.
This is Nif
Nif says, "Yo, how's launch week going?" Yeah, Dylan, we're here talking about the PLO launch pad. Links in the description below on YouTube. It's Dylan's new introduction to Potlam Omaha course, the great game course, and yeah, basically the links in the description, or it's in the pin message. And but yeah, he does a lot of Twitch as well too. You do a lot of YouTube, right, with the Upswing channel. Your stuff goes on there too. So
to give away some of the players.
You're always in the mix.
What do you think the biggest pot
That's what's GTO, right? You gotta stay in the
going to
mix.
be here at Celebrity Cash King?
So this hand, Yachtman raises up Jack 9-5, Jack high suit. Little bit loose, right? Hot, my man, hot with the Ace 10 6-5 double suit. What do you think about that raise pre-flop?
I believe it's
Jack
200, 400.
9-5 single suit from
Under the gun.
What do we think the biggest pot today will
full
be?
game.
Okay.
My bet's going to be
Definitely.
65,000. That's my prediction.
Let's see what happens here.
What other PLO content's out there? We can watch that game with Matt Kirk in it where he lost like $1 million. Have you reviewed that yet?
No. But I got to though.
Free to have a guess. It's free.
I gotta review it.
Well, not much
I
out.
don't know, whatever. I mean, we've been going for a long time anyway, 2.5 hours. Guys in the chat, give us some more questions, and then otherwise I'll probably wrap it up here soon because we've been going for kind of a while here.
Yep.
And
Here to answer
yeah,
questions.
so Helmuth and Negreanu might play, right? I think that's beautiful I think right now, Daniel got so much attention for this challenge of like, I don't know. You know what I started thinking about this? Daniel basically paid $1 million to like remain relevant for many years to come, and not to say that he wasn't already.
Yeah.
He's never going to be irrelevant in the poker world, but he really, you can like, all right, I'll break it down for you, right? So I asked myself this question. I started here. I said, why are there why aren't there more of the guys that were super famous from ESPN? Why aren't a lot of those guys still around?
Because they're broke.
No. Okay? I don't think so. Maybe they are. Who knows? I don't know. I don't think that's the reason why. And that's the first thing you'd come to. Well, they don't have money. They can't win at poker anymore or whatever. I don't think so. I think they probably started doing a lot of other things. But I said, okay, well, who's still around? And I said, okay, well, Daniel's still around and Phil Hellmuth's still around. Those guys are like really around.
Yeah.
And I go, okay, Antonio Esfandiari, why isn't he around? So I know him a little bit better, and I understand why he's not around. And he's not around because he doesn't need to be around anymore. He doesn't want the attention anymore.
Yeah.
He plays private games. And this is what I came to when I was thinking about my own journey, right? I said, well, why am I in this position? Why did I decide I wanted to build up a following and get attention and like tackle these sort of issues that you know are going to stand out?
Yeah.
And I said, well, obviously, like before when I built my business around attention, and I'm like, maybe long term that's a lot to deal with, positive, negative. But at the time, I just thought that was how the game worked. I thought that getting to that point was the game in some ways, and like you have to just embrace attention. You have to love the attention to be able to handle that mentally, because otherwise, like you're just gonna get, you're gonna be fucked mentally sometimes if you can't handle the attention that comes with it, because there's so much opportunity. It's overwhelming, and you're getting this way, that way. Some bad things happen. You start making some bad decisions, and it gets snowball real fast. And then I said, okay, I went back to Daniel and Phil. I go, wow, these guys love attention. Like, fuck me, right? They were front and center. Hellmuth was making videos in 2003, throwing cards at fucking the screen, teaching people about the black belt of poker. So I was like, okay, all right, so these guys love attention, right? They want to be, they make money off their attention. They clearly love it. You have to love it if you're doing it that long. Those guys gotta love this shit. Whether you want to say it's healthy or unhealthy, you guys can debate that all around there. I think some people learn how to handle it healthy.
Yeah.
I think you can learn how to handle it, and you just say, this is a part of my life. This is what it is.
Yeah.
So then I start saying, okay, all right, the guy really just wants to be in the mix, wants to be around. Hellmuth, same thing. Always on Poker Go, always doing it.
Yeah.
This challenge for Daniel is a godsend. It really is, because now people don't even care that he lost. They're like, whatever, he played it. Like he's a god, He played against the best in a lot of people's mind outside of poker.
Yeah.
Like this is the great that he's never have to worry again. He's going to make well more than $1 million off of any sort of partnerships and deals that come his way.
Totally.
He's already kind of set. GG is absolutely going to fucking grow. They kind of growth hack the process here of getting more relevancy and getting more known and boost their YouTube channel, right? Like they're loving it. Depending on his deal with GG, win all the fucking round, right? Now he gets to go out there and challenge a guy like Hellmuth after he studied. Now he gets to play other people in the future and potentially win more, plus any sort of business sponsorships, whatever that come from this. Like, I mean, this is like the best thing this guy could have done in some ways, right?
Yeah, totally.
Like, I don't know what could have been better, really. But even maybe you had to win a big tournament, right? Maybe do something like that. But I think the guy, this is a great, brilliant fucking move. I see why he does it, why he did it.
I think he made a good play for sure. It's and I also think the reason why him and Hellmuth has been around so long is because they are intelligent at these things, right? Like Negreanu saw this was a good, like this wasn't random. He took this spot, like he consciously made that decision. That's props to him for seeing that it's a good opportunity to keep his brand relevant. And that's another reason why him and Hellmuth have been relevant for so long. They're smart at it, right?
They're real smart.
Yeah,
about it. I never really thought about it much, and then I was like, oh my god, these guys are real. Like Hellmuth gets in with the Warriors people. He's all around these famous. He's always dropping fame. I'm like, why does this guy constantly talk about famous people? Like, is kind of fucking cringe,
it's
right?
It's weird, yeah.
But then I was like, oh, like that's like his strat. That's how he like remains. That's how he buys like respect or recognition or admiration, because most people like admire these famous people and they say, oh, you're famous, like that's cool, you hung out with this famous person versus this regular person.
Yeah.
And in certain circles that is currency, and that is a resource, and I think that's, I mean, I don't know, it's a real different strategy, right? A lot of people take in other industries, they don't take it in poker very much. So
I agree.
Yeah, obviously I've been deep in the lab in terms of what these two guys have been doing. So I'm
there were some good questions in the chat, actually.
What are these guys talking about, man? What are my people talking about now, guys? Listen, edibles kicked in, that 500 like edible that we didn't get to. Now it's a 500 like giveaway.
It is. Yeah, it's still there.
Yeah. Nif said Negreanu leveraged the challenge and the spotlight to make him actually accountable to learn from the solvers and improve his game. Exactly.
That's true. Also, he got a lot better, and so he's relevant in that way also.
Evan Klein, A Poppy, what's the GTO method to let my pregnant girlfriend know I'm not pausing my home game fear of COVID?
Yeah.
Some dude's dad says, just want to give Dylan mad credit for promoting mental health to his audience, sharing his strategy, struggles, humanizes a top-level game theorist whom I look up to and respect. Keep doing you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Thank you, some dude said. You've always been very kind. I have not played the.
Has Dr
international
GTO
pools.
played on the European player pools? Yeah. Have you
Yeah.
played against the Finns? You played battle against those guys? You need me to set up a game?
I've played some ACR, but
You want me to set up a match? You and one of the Euros?
Nah,
You
I'm
and one of
good.
the Finns?
not right now. But
What about a game? What about a game? What about 2 games?
yeah, definitely.
What about a challenge where it's like a week, you versus the Euros, and I just line up 5 like monotone, quiet Finns who like to get drunk in their free times?
I don't want to. I don't want to go. I don't want to do that.
What if I get y'all your action tank there?
It's not. It's not about the action. If I do something
Buddy,
like
it's
that,
a week. Put it in.
oh, fine. But it's not about a week. I'd have to put like a month in before that week. Is how it works.
Action on the
All right.
alligator.
If
You're
it
open to it.
Yeah, if it shows up.
I'll hit up
shows up-
Elis Parson right now. I'll get EE on the phone and tell him we got something. I'll get a coup on the phone, tell him we got something.
Okay.
Those boys are ready to battle.
Okay.
Love those Finns. Shout out to the Finns. All right, give me some more. That means the other question.
There was a good question up here asking about if somebody knows one game, should they wait before they transition to other games? And that's a very good question. I think the answer is yes. And I think the reason why you should get really good at one game first is because it gives you a baseline to then branch out of. And so if you get really good at PLO, for example, you have to get good at game theory, and you have to understand removal and a bunch of very central poker concepts. And if you understand those concepts, they translate to other poker games as well. And so by becoming a specialist in one game, it then allows you to take that deep knowledge that you got of one game and transition that to other games. And that's more true now than it was in the past. Because we understand game theory much better and we understand those types of things, it's easier to transition the knowledge back and forth, because at the top level, the biggest barrier to entry is actually learning game theory and learning how to interact with that with poker. And so it's really good to get very, very good at one thing and then transition it out. That's actually what I did with my career also. I got really good at data analytics because I knew that was something that analytics generally was just like the answer. Like, you need analytics for everything in business pretty much. You need it for product, you need it for marketing, you need it for business intelligence, for accounting, for anything. You need analytics. And so by getting really, really good at this one thing, I then was able to become a better generalist, which is what I am now. And I can speak articulately to different facets of business because I'm using an analytics-backed vocabulary. And so by getting really good at one thing, it allowed me to transition that knowledge to something else. Similar for you, and like by getting really good at content and marketing, you can see how some of those principles would apply to other stages in life, such as networking, right? Like marketing and networking are really similar. And so now you can kind of branch out from that one skill set.
I'm ready to hit the mountain, bro. This is all poker's so easy. This stuff's all stressful, man. I don't know. Poker. I miss playing poker now.
Poker's fun.
But it's like a different kind of environment these days. As we talked about that question before that. So
Yeah.
Tommy Lou 321. Hey Dylan, what's your opinion on passive investing in ETFs such as SPY, QQQDIA, as well as leverage ETFs like TQQ? They historically do increase assets by 10% per year.
I mean, I think passive investing is good. I'm not the most informed on ETFs generally, so I don't want to speak to them. But I do think that there are things that work, like using modern portfolio theory and using something like a Betterment or a Wealthfront, which is just an AI trader, where they're pretty much just investing in the market for you. I think that stuff is a very important thing to have. It balances out the variance of your portfolio. But I don't want to talk to specific assets because I don't know them that well.
Kyle S says, gotta say, I was looking forward to more coaching and theory from Poppy. Love the idea of the stream, but the delivery. Well, actually, the point of this one wasn't necessarily to give coaching on how to play PLO, because I realized in that process that you essentially just give away Dylan's course. So I can't. When I thought about the idea, that's what I was like, oh, okay, it'll be like how to learn PLO. But then I was like, it's not really how to learn PLO, because the idea is that you put some stuff out there, right? I mean, we could talk about all these different things, but I guess let's what would you say, right? When you say, okay, the biggest things to know about PLO and learning, because I guess it is. I can put out some brief ideas that'll give you an idea, but it isn't necessarily going to be the way to learn, and you're going to need to go find more information anyway. So I guess from my standpoint, I think about how deep do I want to get into Omaha strategy specific stuff. I guess we could talk about hands and go from that way, or we could talk about more general concepts. I think a lot of what we're talking about is a lot of related to mindset, which in my opinion is needed as well, and debatably more important. Like I think the theory is easy to gain, but the other stuff that go around implementing the theory and executing the theory and being able to consistently do it is a lot more important. So that's why I tend to focus a lot of my discussions over the course of my career on my podcast related to that, because I actually think that's the most important thing that's needed to become a winning poker player, successful at poker. Yeah, I mean, yeah. So, but yeah, clickbait. You know, it kind of was. I actually think it's a terrible title too. So if you're saying that I clickbaited, I think it's a terrible title, and I would fire myself if I was paying myself to do this for that title, and yeah. So, but I can see how that'd be misconstrued, right? You're great, but I think there is some stuff how to learn PLO as well too, and how to learn it. The way to learn it is you go take the fucking course.
That's true.
You know, you go play. Here's what you do. All right, I'm gonna tell you right now. Okay. You go get Munker Solver. You go buy the PLO introductory course. You go find.
You don't need Munker yet. You just buy the introductory course.
Well, I'm gonna tell the fucking guy to get better at PLO in 2021. I'm telling you, here's exactly how to do it. Okay. Here's how to do it. All right. Okay. You get your tools that you need. You go get Munker Solver. Right. You find people that you want to talk with. You want to talk PLO with. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna give you really how to do this. Okay.
So we've been running those. We'll be finishing up.
I guess I'll do it, okay. So what I would personally do, right, I'd have a course, I'd have the introductory course if you're learning from the ground up, which you're not, right? So we're past that point anyway. So you learn from the ground up. Then you have the mastery course that Upswing has. You get your team of people together. You find the best people you can at PLO. You join the public discords. You join those groups where they're talking hands, they're talking concepts. You start putting in your hands and your concepts in there every fucking day, all day long. So you're going to find a place to play. Now, where are you going to find a place to play? You can find a place to play against a program. You can find a good program, a bad program, a GTO program, all these different types of programs for PLO are out there depending on where you look. You find a program, you play against that program, you get better. You have your coaches watch you get a coach as well too. So your coach is giving you feedback, your friends are giving you feedback, you're posting hands, you're giving people feedback. It's going in a fucking loop, all right? You're playing against the programs, you're finding games to play, you're working that process through and through in a circular motion forever, right? And each part of that process, you can optimize who the friends are, right? Okay, you can optimize whatever. You can change the parameters of who those people are. So you can potentially find better players. You can find a better Discord group. You could find a top-of-the-line coach. You could find a top-of-the-line site to play on where you're just making more money. You can potentially find a more cutting-edge program that's going to deliver results to you in a better way to understand. You can find a more optimal training course to teach you in a different way. So if you want to learn PLO in 21, that's what you do.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And if you just keep doing that, you're gonna be successful with those tools right there. So that's the way to do it, right?
Yeah, I completely agree.
What else would you do?
No, that's it. I think that the network is really important. I don't think I'd add anything to that, honestly. That sounds correct to me. If I were to start from nothing, but it's just harder said than done in some spots. Like it's not easy to find a good group of people to work with.
Right.
Like that's the part that's challenging. Because you don't just find good people to work with. You have to have something to offer that group. Right, like generally speaking, you don't just show up and take from something. You need to be able to give to it. And so
let's talk about how we do that, right? Let's dive into that one specifically, right? Because I'm pretty good at all these different things in this specific process right there. In terms of now utilizing them always is definitely not necessarily something I like to do with some things, right? And I'm way too spread out right now. I'm trying to become better at like 15 different things right now, so it's a little bit tough.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the process of finding people to work with. Okay, so for me, I see it differently. For me, I can message someone on Twitter and I'll work with them for the majority of the time, right? So you can know who the best players are. I know all the good players, so you either pay them or they want to just help you out, or maybe you exchange some content, you teach them about business. There's a lot of value in having a relationship if you're someone who's good at poker looking to potentially expand. So for me, it's a lot easier. What would it be like if you're someone who doesn't have that network, who doesn't have a platform, who's trying to establish themselves? For me, I found 2+2, and I just found people that I gelled with and vibed with, and I just joined a forum and got lucky. Nowadays, you got to join Discord groups and find those things. What kind of recommendation would you find to say, okay, I want to find good players that I get along with that can help me advance at poker and get better at poker?
I think the first thing would be to work on yourself. So if you're a kind person who is easy to work with, is humble, and has something to offer, you're going to have a higher % chance of being able to capitalize on the situations that you find yourself in. So by making yourself a better overall person, you create more opportunities for yourself. And also opportunities will arise naturally because you tend to find other humans who are doing the same thing as you, and then you naturally gravitate together. Because there aren't that many people that are putting in a lot of work to make themselves better. And so by having that be the first step, you will naturally find more people. And I think that's step one.
This is the Landon approach, by the way. He streamed himself doing a study session on Twitch,
Yeah.
and then he got messages from other people, and that's
Yeah, it worked.
I built that. So go ahead, number 2.
No, and it works really well.
Yeah.
And then from there, it's about learning where learning where people are hanging out, like what is happening right now. It used to be 2+2 for Joey. Like we met on 2+2, whatever, decade and a half ago or some shit, or a decade ago, and now in today's ecosystem, it's the things like the Discord groups, the private Discord groups, right?
Right.
And
or public Discord groups.
or
too,
public,
but there's some,
public Discord groups. Also being attached to different Twitch streamers, right? Like different people. Like if you want to learn tournaments, maybe I don't know. Lex Feldhaus has a tournament Discord that you can start in, and then eventually you move up the ladder. And the more you move up the ladder, the more access you get because you have more information. But it's on you to just know what the current ecosystem is, and then once you kind of find yourself in those different situations, you are well prepared enough to be able to actually give information and to be someone that people want to work with. Learning how to work with others is one of the most important skills for a human being for success.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard in poker because you're not, a lot of poker, like poker used to be it used to be individual, and then it became group of 2+2, and then it became really group oriented how
Right.
it is today.
Right.
Like it's evolved over time. And so
Which makes sense. People were sharing strategy in the high stakes threads that, in retrospect, they probably wouldn't have shared. And now a lot of that information is shared amongst the private groups in terms of where to play and find games and all those kind of things like that.
Yep,
So,
exactly.
So, yeah, I mean, that's basically that's the answer to the question, right? Is if you can take apart that process and say, okay, how can I optimize this? And you could study Landon. Landon, I think, is a perfect example of somebody who really fast-tracked it in some ways, right? Like I think he fast-tracked in some ways, but also like he started, really what it is to play high stakes is to find people with money. Like that's what it comes down to, is you either, like how do you build a bankroll fast, right? Well, you gotta play a lot of poker, you gotta
play in big games.
Gotta play in bigger games. And well, you can either build your own bankroll there first, or you can find people to invest in you.
Yep.
And if you're actually a good player and you get in good games and you end up making a bunch of money in those games, then you're going to make a lot of money. So Landon sort of took that route, and then he also took a route if he plays against other great players in World Series Poker all the time too. And ACR, he likes playing those games as well. And he does the battling, but he also does the other side of things as well too. So, and when you help make people money, they're more inclined to want to help you out too. If you're making somebody hundreds of thousands of dollars and they have access to the top coaches in the world, then you can understand where the incentives on those sides to keep you in line, to make sure you're staying on track, right? They have a piece of you.
Yep.
So once you piece yourself out, you now have multiple people interested in how you're doing. And those people being interested in what you're doing might help to hold you on track and keep you accountable, keep you working hard, keep you motivated, keep you feel like you got something to prove, and all these different things like that too.
Yep.
So
accountability is super important.
Yeah. One way you can kind of do it is to dissect that and say, okay, how did one person do it? And then you look around, and there's other people I know that are young now that are successful, that are winning at poker, and they've only been winning for 2 years, but they started winning pretty quickly because they understood if you play in weaker games and get up to an adequate level and keep working hard at it, you're going to make some money. So
also
there's all these different tiers of people at all different sorts of levels of success right now.
Completely. It's also easier to get access to the information, right?
Right,
It used to be really hard to get information. And nowadays it's like, oh, and that was a big thing because there wasn't good information that existed really in the ecosystem. And now it's like, I know I can go to upswingpoker.com and get good poker information.
Mm-hmm.
And even from the beginning, I'm shilling them, but I became a part of their brand because they make good products, kind of a thing. And there are other good products in the poker industry, but you can just show up and get pretty good information. Even watching a Twitch stream now, the streamers have to be okay in order to stream. They're not going to be terrible, and they get sponsored by these larger companies that are coaching companies, and so even the lowest level of information is still pretty good. Whereas back in the day, you'd watch ESPN and people would be like open ripping for 50 big blinds in a tournament or something like that, and you're just like, this is what I'm watching and what I'm learning from.
Yeah, I think one of the guys, the BBZ guy, does that quite well. I mean, what these guys are doing is they take these new Twitch streamers that are from out of different places that have different audiences. I mean, basically, like, it's kind of embarrassing in some ways actually, because the training sites are doing a better job than the actual operators themselves. The operators are so fucking slow in poker, like, and it makes sense when whatever, right? I don't want to get into that. That's a different topic for a different kind of day, but. Yeah, I mean, I'm just waiting for things to evolve, like people to try some interesting things, and then that'll motivate me to try some interesting things. And I'm just kind of seeing the landscape of what develops in the poker world, and there's a lot of opportunity out there, though, man. A lot of opportunity all over, and
you just have to want it. You have to work hard.
yeah, I guess it's a problem in poker is like having the vision for what that might be, because when you look about outside of playing poker, right, what other businesses could you create in poker? You have a training site, you have events, you have operators, you have, right, like there isn't too much in there in terms of where you can sort of fit in to build some sort of to build something, right? So I guess it's about being innovative and figuring out different ideas outside of that. And C910 says streamers are terrible mostly.
I mean, there are people who stream poker that are bad at poker, but there also are people that stream poker
That's what you want. Why would I mean? I guess I think about that from like an education thing. There's still the idea of like, I want to help you actively get better at poker after, you put your blood, sweat, and tears in for so long. Like, to me, never made sense. And obviously now it's just mainstream. Everyone's doing it. Like, I feel like an idiot for not coaching in the past when I was at the peak of mine and making courses and doing these things, whatever, because I would probably be the best coach in poker right now because I've been doing it for the last 7 years. So I sometimes think about that and say, maybe that perspective I had was incorrect. Maybe I shouldn't have saw it that way. Maybe that was the natural evolution. And as what most people said, they were getting ahead of it. They were getting ahead of, okay, if it's going to happen, this is the natural way to scale your business and to add different income streams, is to leverage the knowledge and information that you built up. So like,
Totally.
I don't know, man. I guess you're kind of in that mode right now where you had that epiphany. You're like, oh, I could do this, I could do that, and I love teaching. It combines things I really like and enjoy, and right up your fucking alley. Right up your alley, Poppy.
Thank you.
Donkey Valley, shout out to you.
Yeah, I think that as you get older, you get better at putting things together.
Yeah.
Right? You get better at finding opportunities that will feel good for you as long as you're paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
Like making courses felt good because it was worth my time from a monetary perspective, and I got to teach and I got to build products, and I love all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels good.
Yeah. That makes sense, man.
Totally.
Doncavelli, Poppy, what's up, baby? What's up, guys? What's happening? If you're still tuned in, I appreciate you guys very much for tuning in. It definitely means a lot if you're watching me and the Dr. GTO over here, Mr. Dylan Weissman. We're celebrating his new course is out today, PLO Launchpad. So we're just kind of talking about celebrating. Gets a little off topic, goes to Doug Daniel, which I want to talk about a lot, and ultimate like takeaways from that for you. Was there anything that stood out, or was it? I feel like it's actually the beginning of something really new in poker, and I'm excited about it.
The big heads up matches.
More like, hey, we're gonna play, everyone watch, sort of thing.
Yeah, that's dope. I think that's a really cool format, especially because the streaming platforms exist, so it's easy to make those situations happen. For me, there wasn't any really big takeaways because it honestly played out how I thought it would. I thought that Doug was going to try really hard and he was going to beat Daniel, and that's what happened. Right, and I was pretty confident of that. I think that what was more cool was the way that the content evolved, right? With the different companies having different streams, you could show up to the upstream stream and it'll feel different than it'll feel from your stream, for example. And they're both high quality. It just is what type of experience do you want. And you had different users showing up to the different type of experience that they wanted. And that I think was really cool about the challenge because it was a free for all, right? Like anyone could cover it. And so you had as many people as possible who were relevant covering it and whatever they thought the best way to do it was. And so you got high quality, diversified content. And whenever that happens, I think it's a really good sign that that's a good format, because you get one event that can be repackaged in so many different ways such that people care about it and enjoy it. And so I hope that this format continues. It's kind of what the Poker Go people are trying to do with the heads up duel or whatever. Like same but different.
Yeah, Poker Go, man, they got, they like, now that I've been really studying I studied every business in poker. I broke them all down. I was like, oh, okay, here's what's, this is not a good business to be in. I'm going to tell you guys right now, right? If you're thinking about starting a business, like, outside of playing, right? I think if you're playing, if you're staking, if you're doing coaching for profit, like there's so many soft games out there that this is like a really great business to be in from that side. But if you're trying to build and you don't want to coach, if you want to coach, it's cool, because if you want to be a coach, then I think there's less opportunity now, but you can make a pretty consistent living for a very long time by just building a brand and then building coaching around that brand. So put out a product, have a course, have a book, do private coaching, build relationships with your clients, become better coach, deliver results. Like if you want to do coaching, then that's cool. I tried coaching before with stuff and outside of poker, and it was something I liked, obviously, but I didn't, it was a lot of pressure I felt like on me to deliver results for those people. And I think I deal with it better now, but maybe at the time, whatever, right? So the only other options, like you need to either break the law with the online sites, or you got to become like a legalized, regulated operator in America. It turns out that's not looking too good on the horizon, right? Because it's illegal. And if you work with one of the Poker Bros or ACR or Global, you're gonna feel a little weary about promoting it, and sometimes you can't even use real money gambling as the thing. So like those natural partnerships that you would have, aren't necessarily there. So it's like the best business in some ways is to partner with one of the big operators for like a large thing, and then you just shill them for fucking, you just plan, you know what I'm saying, like the whole. So I don't know, to me it just seems like it seems like with the events, right, like putting those things on, going back to that, those could certainly be something that people put on and people do, but
totally. I think one of the biggest issues is that poker is a capped ecosystem. It only has such large of an audience, and the amount of the larger the audience, the less capped the ecosystem becomes, because there's more money in the ecosystem. But right now it's capped, and that's just because of legal things in the United States.
That's what's unfortunate, right?
Yeah,
it's not, I feel like if poker can go 1v1 versus like chess, you got these like real entertaining American people who are having a good time, and at some point what's going to happen in poker is one of these sites is going to realize, and if they're listening now and do this right, here's what you do, okay? You go find the most entertaining person you can, you pay them to be a losing player, and you help them just make fire fucking content, and they stream already. Like these streamers, you go find the QCG, whatever the hell that guy's name is, right? The guy's crushing it, he's killing it, and he's some 3-letter acronym. You find this guy and you go, yo, we're going to pay you $1 million, $2 million. Like you massively overpay this guy, what you think is an overpay. And then you work together with this guy to make fire content, and the fun is him losing. It doesn't matter if he's losing, right? You pay the guy to lose. And what will happen is there'll be this whole entire, it's going to get so much attention, so much coverage. There's going to be high stakes game. Like there'll be so much shit going on about this, right? And to me, that would seem like a really good investment by a poker site. Bam. That's what I think GG Poker should go upon doing that. But that's kind of an extreme idea, right? Like, let's just pay this guy to lose.
Just put our name in the background.
Like partner with you know what I'm saying? Like you kind of see some collaborations happen like that now.
Poker does that with big athletes, right? Like they did the big thing with.
I mean, not really, right? Put them in a big game, like put them with some players sort of you. I guess Pete says, didn't GG just try this with Negreanu? They did, actually. That's a really good point. They did just try this with Negreanu. That's true, and we saw what happened. A banger, right? So I think we're going to see more of that with Negreanu, kind of getting more in with the poker people or the chess people or the streamer people. I think there's going to be a lot more crossover, and I feel like poker it's actually on the upswing right now pretty hard. So
I think especially as you get more crossover, as gaming becomes bigger, poker becomes bigger, right? So as chess becomes bigger, poker becomes bigger as well. As Twitch becomes bigger, poker becomes bigger, because it's a part of that ecosystem. It's mostly just what is grabbing the most attention right now, and how do you keep it there?
I guess if you're obsessed, I don't like thinking about it like that, because because I guess then you I guess maybe it's a good way to think about it. You close off a lot of your ideas. Like a lot of my ideas I come up with are not based around the idea of attention or product or business or like an end result. It's more of like I just like talking about these sorts of topics or things or these content ideas, right? Like when you build our ideas out for content or for marketing or whatever, you sort of like have top ideas. You go down the more niche bottom ideas, right? And the niche ones like PLO for what you do on the river, right? That'd be like very niche sort of topic idea, but a lot of the things I find interesting I feel like fall around there, whereas like we already know what gets attention. What gets attention is people playing poker.
Yep.
I don't do much playing poker on my channel for my content or anything like that. So that's when you mention like what gets attention. I don't have much experience thinking about it like that, and it almost feels unhealthy to think about it like that.
It just depends on what you're optimizing towards. For you, you're just optimizing towards making really good content. But if you're like, when I make products, I make them for a reason. And I only make ones that make me feel good. Like I wanted to make this intro course because it felt really good to make, and that's why it was really good. But I also made it knowing who I was making it for, and so it was very specific. And for you started your podcast just because you liked them and then they were good content. And so
fun.
And so transitioning now into this newer ecosystem that we have, where if you want really big numbers, you have to pay attention to like making a little more of a.
It's easy.
For you it is.
Yeah.
But like not generally speaking.
I mean, it's like, you know, I got the audience already built up. It turns out that's a big process. This 7 years before is part of what makes it easy,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like you do it
Yeah.
for 7 years, it just, you know what I'm saying?
Exactly
You
right.
sort of have some things, you know, it works, and you already have
It's all in a corner
the
on
subscribers,
the
unless you also do, you know, there's other platforms that don't necessarily use that model, so you can kind of do it like that. But
Yep, exactly right.
Dallas says, I think one of the major poker sites showed Pog Champs type tournament for streamers who don't play poker. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely going to happen next. I mean, I think GG or PokerStars is going to do something like that. They should have happened a year ago. Like, you don't understand. These sites are so fucking slow, and the people that they bring in like don't really know what they're doing, from my opinion, right? And it's almost like a too big to fail. You know, when you're Poker Go and you own the World Series of Poker, like you can't really fuck up.
Yeah.
I mean, especially if like your return, you know, like the worrying about making a lot of money in the short term isn't there. Like, you know, they're like a big, nice long term play business wise, and they get to use different strategies and different things to sort of generate that attention. So you're not really competing on the same sort of world as those people like that. When you know, I think that's kind of something interesting more to think about too. But
Yeah, I agree.
any other question you noticed out here that you really like, man?
Not for. I think I'm looking. I think I'm pretty good on all the questions in chat right now.
Anything else on your mind, Poppy?
I think we've done a good job.
Yeah.
Yeah, I ain't got much more in the tank.
Yeah. You ready to get in the mix? You want to play?
Nah, I'm a stretch.
Maybe versus you. Want to play?
With my body.
Play on stream? No, I'm kidding.
Not today.
That's
Maybe
what we got.
we can play on stream though. People would love it.
People would love it. How long have we been going? 3 hours?
Yeah,
Fuck me.
over 3
That got
hours.
kicked in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's been a minute.
What do I think about Chris Moneymaker signing ACR? I think it's a phenomenal deal for ACR. I think ACR is debatably one of the best moves. they
Wait,
could
did
have done.
ACR sign Chris Moneymaker?
Yeah, Chris Moneymaker signed ACR.
Oh
yeah.
wow, that's
It's
a
like Stones.
That's a
the
bet,
Stones
yeah.
live crew taking over ACR. What does that tell you guys? I don't know. Okay, all I know is that Stones Live and ACR must have had a connection before this. Okay, but a lot of those guys were already with them. Whatever is what it is. So.
Oh, that's fascinating.
I think it's great for I think it's great for ACR to have Chris Money. I mean, listen, the guy's the guy's a legend of American poker. So I think ACR needs to take the GG poker route where they just find the most reputable people they can and pay them whatever amount of money they can.
Yeah.
And come on,
It's on money like.
it's the goal. That's the right. Nanonoko, Ace Moneymaker. Bring on a few other people who've got pristine reputations and go off that. So.
It's not a bad play.
Not bad play. All right, guys. So we got Jason, Michelob Dog, Derek Daddy, Saul, Daniel Moya, Andy Mercado, Rachel Thorpe, Dan Barbosa. Stars was really good at targeting different demographics, not taking just one strategy. A little bit too deep for the stream right now. I would love to discuss that, Dan Barbosa 9 with you. I spent way too much time studying foreign poker markets than I ever thought I would be doing that. So it's
Yeah.
you know, and one of my collaborations I have is more related to that actually. So I'm taking a very different approach to some of these ideas I got, but
Yep.
who fucking knows, right? Who cares? Whatever. F you, Shorzy. ACR needs to stake their brand. Ryan DePauli's perfect ambassador. Agree. That's it.
Man.
Guys, so we got.
We did it.
Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.
I'm gonna make another video. I don't actually know when the next video is gonna be, so I'm gonna try to do a stream on Friday. I don't know what it's gonna be. I don't really have a plan past the Doug and Negranu challenge. I got a bunch of different ideas for content that I'm gonna do. More podcasts as well too. But you can stay tuned on my Instagram, on my Twitter, and also I'm gonna be writing a lot more on my Substack, which is in the link in the description below. And that's it. That's Dylan.
Look out for the. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate all of you. As I said, this week we have the PLO Launchpad, which we've been talking about. I'm super proud of it. I think that it's great for anybody who's looking to get into the great game of PLO. And yeah, that's it. I think we still got to wait for the people to get to 500 likes to give away courses, though. It hasn't gotten there yet.
Yeah, I mean, it's 383. I don't think it's
Yeah.
getting a 500. We've asked a few times. It
Yeah.
seemed like it is what it is. Okay, it happens. Sometimes you get sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. It
Do we still want to
happens.
give one away right now, or do we want to wait until the giveaway later?
Do I want to give them away? They didn't even hit it. I don't want. I
Okay,
don't
then
really
no,
want to.
yeah.
I don't really want. I mean, I don't know, man. I give them a chance, right? But I don't know, man.
Yeah, maybe it'll get there. Maybe we put it on
Maybe it'll get
Twitter.
there. Maybe it'll get there. We'll put it on Twitter. I think Twitter, Instagram's been really appreciating it a lot lately.
Okay, yeah,
so.
we can do it. We can do an Instagram giveaway.
We can
for
do a
sure.
YouTube community one too. No, if we do that, we gotta just give it away to one. Let's give one away to one of these fucking guys right now. I like these guys. Let's give one away.
Okay, how do we give one away?
All right, we'll give one away. Here's the question I want for you, okay? What poker player played an infamous pot limit Omaha hand against Andrew Roble where he got it all in and they ran it 4 times and he lost all 4 times as a favorite? If you can say the right answer on YouTube or on Twitch, we're going to pick one person and we're going to give you a PLO launch pad for $99.
Someone got it already.
Yeah, I know that. It's not the first person. It's who
Oh.
can get it.
Got it. And then we put them into a drawing.
Yeah, we'll put them into a drawing. So I'm gonna pick one person from Twitch. I'm gonna pick one person from YouTube. You're gonna decide which name you like better, and that person's gonna email the giveaway hotline and the GTO giveaway hotline, and they're gonna get the course. Okay?
Sounds good.
Sounds good. All right, cool, perfect. Let's do it. All right, I got my guy on Twitch. My guy on Twitch is gonna be. We got a few guesses coming in. They're coming in. Okay. It's too easy. You understand. It's gonna be easy once one person gets it. All right, we're going with Dan Barbosa 9 on Twitch. Let's see who gets it on YouTube. Shout out to Dan Barbosa 9. He responded accurately with the answer. And on YouTube, we got a bunch of people responding with the answer. Who do we got up there, guys? We're gonna go with. On YouTube, we'll go with Patrick Cunningham. Okay, so we got Patrick Cunningham and we got Dan Barbosa. Pick one.
But I did come up to Leo's Casino once. I went to watch the.
Can I flip a coin?
Liverpool game.
Yes.
Okay.
Very kindly, they took me to their box. And here we got aces are out.
All right.
again.
If
Try
it's
aces against one
between
suited
1 and
aces.
50, it'll be
Langman.
Dan, and if it's between
free bet from the
or
meeting.
whatever 1 and 49, 50, and 100.
All right, we're gonna choose one person. Go ahead.
Okay.
Bill Moonen not with a bad hand. 8, 9, 10 queen with one suit. Bichon queen double jack. And Yachman with a very playable hand here.
I don't know what he's doing.
It's gonna be Cunningham.
Okay, Patrick Cunningham. There's the email. joinyour1giveaways@gmail.com. Congratulations, buddy. Guys on Twitch, I'm out of here. Been going a long time. Appreciate you very much tuning in. If you're on iTunes listening, thank you very much. Everybody out there, appreciate it very much. Joshua Jaquez, Daniel Moya, Pete, F.U. Shorzy. It means a lot to me, guys. And I look forward to seeing what we get into next. Let's take care of this Doug content, put together some fun highlight stuff, and let's get into the next week strong, okay? Drink our water,
Drink our water.
Drink our water, get our bodies moving, get those GTO habits in line, figure out where the hell we want to go with our lives out here, people. And that's it, man. That's all we got.
That's all we got. Thank you all.